Hey everyone, Sprinks here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that our guest in today's episode had some internet connection issues while recording, and it resulted in the audio being a bit robotic in the final export. Hope you enjoy this episode of the podcast.
I know her brother died and everything, but Cheryl Blossom truly is the Antichrist.
I mean, when you figure out what happens later, you might as well just be right.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Cheap Seat Critics Podcast, Season 16, Episode 7, in the last third of this season of pilots. With me today we have...
Hello everybody, I'm a geeky writer.
And I'm Sprinks, and we have a very special guest, first time on the pod, Biomon.
Hello.
Welcome to the pod.
Welcome, Biomon.
I think I'm gonna have fun here.
I hope.
Well, for what we're covering today, which is the pilot to Riverdale, the CW show.
He got us again, Biomon.
Yeah. I think we'll begin with histories on this show, which I figure is very similar amongst all three of us here, which is a reason for Biomon's guesting. Who would like to share the story of our history with this show?
I'll start, and then maybe someone else can pick it up. So, we hold regular movie nights as a friend group online. This kind of started back, I think it started back during COVID, actually, because we couldn't actually physically see each other, and it's something we've tried to continue to do. But Springs here introduced to us a show that is very, it wasn't really well known amongst us, but called Riverdale. We were told that it was based off the Archie comics, which are supposed to be like super lighthearted, fun, zany, sort of cliche stuff. So from there, we were shown an episode or two, and we had such a blast as a group laughing at the show that we decided to separate it from our movie nights, and Riverdale got its own nights of the week with us.
Yeah, and I think from my memory of looking up, we got to Season 4, Episode 16, I think is where we stopped.
I'm just going to admit, those episodes started blurring together towards the end there. Like, I don't know what season was what at there. Like, it goes off the rails, and the pilot really just does not prepare you for what's going to happen.
It's true, it does not at all.
Nothing can get you for Edgar Ever Never and the Griffins and Gargoyles season.
No.
The
D&D themed season.
Yeah.
Is okay. Am I misremembering this show, Springs, where like I'm not gonna spoil who the killer is for those who actually you know what, don't go check out the show, but I don't want to spoil the killer for those who are unfortunately going to check out the show. Is the killer like reveal in this season or next season?
Well, the real question is which killer? The killer of Jason?
Yeah.
That is revealed in this season.
Okay.
I thought that was a season 2 thing.
Yeah, well,
season 2 is the Black Hood.
Yeah. I'm confusing the Black Hood with the current murderer.
Yeah, season 1.
Yeah.
No, it's season 2's Black Hood. Season 3, Griffin and Gargoyles. Season 4 is the prep school VHS mystery room thing.
That's a word for it.
Barely remember that one.
Anyway, word of our Riverdale movie night got kind of out there amongst family and friends to the point where I think it was someone in my family, or it could have been Crimson. I can't recall. Someone gifted me a Riverdale poster that Biomon and I hung up when we lived together that we would see every single day.
It was definitely our Riverdale nights were infamous, especially once we were old enough to drink.
I've been old enough to drink the entire time.
Yeah, I think we all.
Well, you know,
that age.
yeah, we probably did, but you know, just throwing it out there that gave us a good excuse to get really hammered.
I think I didn't really start drinking through Riverdale until halfway through season 2, started season 3, and then it was just honestly being a little buzzed really increased the enjoyment of those seasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think not being fully sober, seeing Archie fight a bear is pretty helpful.
That's very true. Let's see.
I forgot he can
Yeah.
fight with a bear.
I'm probably the same, where I started drinking like regularly with the show about halfway through season 2, because season 1, by comparison, is actually fairly tolerable.
See, that's I was gonna pipe in when you told people not to watch the show. I recommend season 1. It really can get you of like you're hooked. I mean, we were hooked, I think, out of fun, but it got us to season 4.
That's true. Well,
It's a show you watch with friends.
yes, this is definitely
Personally.
this is definitely one of those, you have friends over, let's all have drinks and watch Riverdale. This is exactly the niche that this show fills.
Yeah, I think what helped me get a little hooked into the show was it reminded me a bit of like Scooby-Doo premise, like how Scooby-Doo was 60s, very just nice, solving cases and everything, but as iterations got more, it got more dark and a little scary and horror elements into it, and that's how Riverdale came across to me.
Oh, Mr. Incorporated. Yeah, I can totally see the.
Well, yeah, Mr. Incorporated is based off of Riverdale.
Yeah, it's kind
one
of
of their...
it's kind of funny that it's come back around. That Scooby Doo is kind of what in part probably inspired the show Riverdale, and Riverdale has now in part inspired a fan remake of Scooby Doo.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, Mr. Incorporated has a
really good.
Surprisingly, yes. It was one of the earlier on. It's probably one of the highest rated things we had on the podcast. It was surprisingly pretty good.
Can't wait for more.
Yeah.
Anywho,
I'll make you watch it someday, Biomon.
With Riverdale, I have a couple facts to go over that I have. I got these off the internet, so audience take these with a grain of salt, whether how true or false they are. Oh my gosh, you know what? I just realized before facts. Hey, you look up Cheap Seat Critics Podcast anywhere on the interwebs. You'll find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LetterBox for graph stuff. We got visuals over on YouTube and Rumble. Give us a like, share, go tell the people at the graveyard shift about us. I think it'll really greatly pass their time. Thank you. Anyway, back to the facts. The initial release date was January 26, 2017. The pilot here has a runtime of 46 minutes, almost 47. I think it's 46:55, but that's with credits. I could not find a budget or box office on it, sadly, but then again, that seems pretty hard to find for pilots. Its rating is TV 14. Its genre is listed as teen drama mystery. And this first episode is directed by Lee Tolland Kruger, who is known for, I believe, films of The Vicious Kind, Celeste and Jess Forever, and The Age of Adeline. And then I have just a few amount of fun facts here. First one being, Riverdale was originally pitched as a time-traveling movie. Quote, we spent about a month trying to figure out how to do a high-concept Archie movie, and that's kind of the exact opposite of what we wanted to do. Showrunner Robert Aguirre Sacasa, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, explained during the CW's 2017 Winter Television Critics Association panel. Eventually they went against what was pitched and decided Riverdale would be a TV show minus any time travel.
For now.
Oh,
For now.
for now. You know what? They could bring it back. I did stop watching halfway through season 4, and apparently it's just a roller coaster
I'm trying to
after where
remember.
I
Was season
stopped.
4 where Archie went back to like World War II, but World War One uniforms or something? I remember it really pissed Ryder off.
I
I
don't. I
I
don't know. I don't know if I made it that far, to be honest.
Oh,
I no
Maybe
I
I
don't
blocked it
know.
out. Maybe you're
maybe.
right. Maybe I blocked it out and I
You
just suppressed
you
it.
probably did because it was the like 4 things that you hate the most: inaccuracy, historical inaccuracy, internal inconsistency, and just bad writing.
Just Archie.
Yeah.
And Archie, Archie stays the least favorite character for so long.
Oh, good to know. I figured we could. Okay. Oh, interesting. Second fact I have here.
I,
Oh, do you have something, Biomon?
no, not at all. Continue.
Okay. Second fact: Jughead only has one beanie. He only wore one beanie through the entirety of the show.
And it's
Uh,
Beanie we all want, I think.
did find at the end, in the final season, I think there was another one made, but it got stolen off of a table during lunch or something. But yeah, Cole Sprouse used one beanie throughout the entirety of the show.
Hope it got washed.
When he went on, it was either Kimmel or Fallon. I think it was Fallon. He let Jimmy Fallon wear it, and his one comment was like, "Don't smell it."
Why would you? No.
That's funny. I mean, it makes
That's
sense to try and keep the
heinous.
integrity of the costume, but honestly, he should have just had more made.
Yeah. And the last fun fact I have here is every Riverdale episode is based on a movie. While it might be obvious to some diehard fans, many viewers may not realize the significance of every episode title of Riverdale. All the episodes are names of or a variation of the name of old movies, and it's not just for aesthetic purposes, as they literally tell fans what the episode will be about.
I think I figured that one out after. I think
Yeah.
that during season 3, I want to say it's season 3 was one of the episodes was referenced like an old horror movie. I was like, oh, I know what this is going to be. Or I think I wish at the time I was like, oh, that's a fun reference, and then it was basically the plot of the movie the entire time, and I was just like losing my mind.
Yeah, I think I had a similar experience, but I don't remember when. I suppressed a lot of my memories of Riverdale after season 2, funny enough. My time with you guys, great. My time with Riverdale specifically.
Anyway, that's the facts I have. Does anyone have any other facts to share?
I do not. I should have looked some up.
Or any other last bits of history you want to get out there?
I think we're good.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, my
we're
last little bit of history is I saw the show, I think, couple, maybe 3 or 4 episodes with my family who introduced me to Riverdale before I pitched it as an idea to the friend group to watch. So we didn't all go in blindly when we started.
Oh yeah, I have. Well, I guess I do have one more bit of history to say. Crimson escaped it again.
Yes, Crimson.
For now,
Gosh. I think he's seen one episode totally out of context.
he did.
But Crimson was never a part of Riverdale Nights out of his choice. And he escaped the pod today because of scheduling conflicts. But Ryder and I have it planned. Hopefully we will get him to watch it and have a rating for the recap.
Yeah, he will. He might have escaped for now, but he will not escape by recap.
Anyway, with that, we'll go into the episode, The River's Edge. It's we're gonna go with linear popcorn, so pretty much beginning to end. But if we jump around, we can jump around a bit. And I think we should start the first point off with anything of their choosing with Biomon, our guest. Biomon, what would you like to start with?
Ooh, this is a hard one. honestly, it's if we just start with the basis of the episode and the little intro with Jughead, the description of the town. Like it's a small town. He's what is he? Safe, decent, innocent, and all that. They're just talking about it. How like everything about the town changes after Jason Blossom's death. It's I'd say it's a fairly solid intro. A little heavy handed, but it kind of gets you ready for what you're going into.
Yeah, I'll bounce off of that a little bit. There's something to read into it being Jughead's narration. It's kind of implied that the story of Riverdale is his point of view. Whether the rest of the show or not will keep to that, I have no idea because we're not talking about it. But it's kind of implied that the story of Riverdale is from Jughead's point of view, even though what he's writing on his novel is in no way matching his narration. When we kind of cut to him on his computer screen,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's his computer screen's behind what he's saying. It is written down though.
not
I
from
did for
it's not word for word. Like there's
no.
changes.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, you're right. I did pause there because there's a lot to look at in that 1 second of a frame. Um, but with this beginning, I really like all the establishing shots of the locations of what it jumps to in the town. And I think it's really good that it doesn't seem too long of a shot on a location, but also not too quick and fast.
Yeah, I'm
I think
kind
it
of.
really sets up the.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it really sets up like what you expect to see in the first season, comparatively, because I think everything he cycled through, all the images and all the establishing shots are all the big spots throughout the entirety of season one.
I think the only big spot that we don't visit is the high school, but that's intentional because we're going to spend a lot of time there in this episode anyway.
Yeah, I think it just shows the outside of the building, nothing inside.
So yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. They do a very good job of building up the character of the small town, even if it's as Biomon put it, heavy-handed. It's you definitely get the sense of the small town and like how the because whenever it's a small town, it's kind of a cliche that it's a community that everybody knows everybody. Everyone has like skeletons in their closet. They know how to pick at each other's like pressure points and stuff like that, and it sets that up without necessarily having to go too deeply into it.
Yeah. Question: how did you two feel about the use of slow motion?
Uh, there
For
are
example, Cheryl and Jason. I guess just for this beginning, Cheryl and Jason driving in the car, uh, the shots of just kind of showing their hair and the wind, um, the boat paddling across the river. Like, do you think it was too much?
um see the slow motion as a tool. The idea typically behind it is that it's just to exaggerate particular focus on something, right? It can get overblown like in a Zack Snyder movie where there's too much slow motion and you're hyper focusing on too many things that you start not to care. I think here at the beginning it's good enough because we don't get much of it going on later on. Um, and in this case, it's highlighting, uh, I guess, Cheryl Blossom's character traits, like what define her, and like why she's called. Later on, we learn what she's called Cheryl Bombshell, and uh, why. I guess yeah. So it's supposed to exaggerate those specific things, and I think that's why I'm okay with it here in the beginning. Um, I'm trying to think of. I think the only other time that happens in the episode is the cheerleading tryout that I can think of.
Yeah. No, there's other uses of slow mo. I forget where they are, but okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was um I thought of it as a good use because it didn't seem to. I mean, first off, it was a very good slow mo. It wasn't very choppy
It
or
wasn't the edited slow mo. It was like filmed in
yeah.
slow mo.
Yes, exactly. And I think that just fit well with the tone of what they were going with, Jughead's narration of the town and the blossoms.
Yeah, it's kind of makes it feel like dreamy too, which I think is kind of also what they're kind of going for.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I personally enjoyed the slow mo in the intro here because writer over there basically took the words right out of my mouth with the almost kind of dream style sequence. And almost like I'll say like it almost conveys like a sense of innocence with it too, because you have two siblings essentially just going out for a little boating ride on the river.
without the incestuous undertones we're going to get later. Yeah, no,
I was gonna. There's a complete change in the context of the scene after you've watched the episode entirely, but still.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to kind of build off of what you just said in the bit during the dreamlike sequence, which is and the innocence part of it. You get that because they're wearing plain white as well, which just adds to like the being unmarred by the world, like they're just going out for kind of like a stroll, and the dreaming like sequence just adds to on that feeling of innocence because this is obviously the turn that Riverdale takes with the implication of Jughead's narration.
I agree. It's also a good
Indeed.
use of really eye-catching the red hair of blossoms of their kind of pretty much signature characteristic.
Pretty much, yeah. Their distinct trait.
Yeah. I like the
It's
detail
good setting
that.
up.
No, yeah, no, it's definitely set up. When you know more about the show, it's certainly present. Um, I like the detail that the boat is visible when Dilton Doily and his Boy Scouts find Cheryl to show an actual distance of how far. Like I prefer that the boat's visible rather than not to show how far Cheryl's gone or where the event actually happened. I think it just helps show a distance of trouble, or uh, I don't know the exact word I'm looking for. Not crime scene, but location.
Yeah, it helps give the scope. I'm trying to think about because her brother essentially disappears for a few months, the body, and I. It helps in that we don't know how long Cheryl's been sitting there on the riverbank.
You say a few months?
Yeah,
It's been
I think it.
well.
I think it's
No,
like
you're
2 weeks.
no,
no, no,
well,
no, no, no.
no.
Writer, you're right.
The missing is July 4th, and then school starts in
Yeah,
September
no,
Oh,
you're right.
or late August.
okay.
So we're at over a month at least for
And
That
I
was
guess
my
I'm gonna have to
confusion.
jump
Yeah.
ahead with this comment. Fucking he's very well preserved for several months in water.
Yeah, I'm holding off on that one, but yes,
Well,
Jason's body should not be that well preserved.
without outside information, yes.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna keep it within the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, no.
Which
With
okay, could be a
outside
great clue.
information, it could be a fantastic clue. One, just saying. Watch the show
Or
or
don't
don't.
do something.
I'm gonna
Got
stick
better
to,
things
in
to do
my
with your
opinion,
time.
watch season 1. See how you feel after that.
But yeah, no, that's pretty much. I was gonna make the same comment that the body's extremely well preserved for having just been out there for more than a month.
Yeah.
I'll cut to one of the tropes that happens with a lot of TV shows, and it's very heavy-handed with dialogue because they don't have the budget to do show and tell as much as movies do. So they obviously have to tell the audience a lot of information in order to uh, get across the certain messages and stuff like that. So I'm okay with a lot of the, I guess, bluntness on how giving the audience information. Though I do think this episode does cross the line at a few points. However, that being said, I think the Veronica's introduction is actually pretty well done outside of the end bit. Veronica, and we could see the similarities that she has with her mom. We get to see that they're new to town, they're rich, or they're fallen rich people, and we the weirdest part of it is that evidently Veronica has never heard of a chocolate shop, and I don't know if I buy that fully, but I think otherwise it does serve as a good introduction to her character. We get a lot of her base traits of without it needing to be overt.
I'm in agreement. I think Veronica's taste could be so high with New York that she doesn't know what a chocolate shop is.
It could be, but it's.
Oh, actually,
You're saying?
I'll actually kind of throw one in the favor of the show here. Is I actually also did not know what like I knew what a chocolate shop was in passing, but if you said, "Hey, you know what a chocolate shop is?" And why does it sell burgers? Is actually something that I personally would have said because I would think like it's called a chocolate shop, it should sell chocolate, and I would be very confused.
Kind of leaning with what Biomon's saying, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a. It's kind of a minor thing, but if you guys think it's okay, I'll give it a pass too. Otherwise, that the scene is good then. I think.
It's like someone saying, "Hey, you want to go to the caramel shop? They got excellent sushi."
It's definitely a confusing statement.
Wild.
I understand it. It is a confusing statement, and it's one to kind of signify that this is a town like in modern times, but stuck in
The 60s.
the 60s.
Yeah,
60s?
60s feels right. I mean, I base my quote unquote time period off of the diner that we are going to be spending a lot of time at.
And for the most part, I think they do that actually fairly well. Of modernizing old.
I'm in agreement. I don't think there's anything, at least in this episode, that I would pick out as being like too modern for this.
Egregious.
Yeah, too egregious.
Speaking about introductions to characters, introducing Alice Cooper with the line "May Jason Blossom burn in hell" really cements her character from the get-go.
Yep. It's set up.
And in my notes, I have Alice Cooper, how I haven't missed you at all.
Yeah, funny enough, I don't have her written as Alice Cooper in my notes. I wrote down the bitch.
Oh, God.
that ain't no more of a righteous bitch than this one. They certainly conveyed that all right. Like if that's her introducing line, and let me tell you, people, just remember that. Just remember that that's the first thing you see this woman say. Here.
Yeah.
Words.
Pretty much.
Question to shoot out. Writer, and Biomon as well, if you're familiar. Where does Alice Cooper line up with Umbridge?
Ooh. Personal or
Harry
objective?
Potter. Let's go with personal. It's more fun.
Personally, I think Umbridge is clinical while Alice is personal. So I'd probably hate Umbridge more at a work environment, but I would rather live with Umbridge than I would rather live with Alice, if that makes sense. So I think Umbridge might be the lesser of two evils. Just a smidge. I'd rather deal with clinical evil
neither
than
should be
personal
allowed near
evil.
children.
Yeah.
I agree with what Biomon says.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
Umbridge didn't send anyone to a care home.
She just tried to keep
But she did.
people out of high school.
Yeah, Umbridge though is more physical torture, and Alice is more mental, verbal torture.
Umbridge is like an old school corporal punishment high school teacher from like the 50s to 70s. And Alice Cooper is that classic narcissistic, abusive mom. And one you can one feels like, just a character. She's a raging bitch. But like Alice Cooper on the other side, I feel like too many people out there would see this character and be like, that's too real for me. Over exaggerated, yes, nonetheless. But
leans too hard into the archetype.
much like Ryder said, there's
an audience might be thinking here that we're being a little too harsh on one episode of a character. We're bleeding in a little bit of all we've seen of her, so
you definitely get.
Not gonna lie, that is true.
You get a sense of it though, at least in the first episode, what she's going to be like for the show, especially with how she interacts with Al. Especially when she finds out that Betty is joining the Vixens. You definitely get that moment of like, no, you're not allowed to do this. I said so,
Yeah.
There's also, I think, an implication of I can't confirm this, but rewatching this, there's an implication that I think that Betty doesn't need meds, but her mom keeps her on meds.
Could be.
With at least
Did I miss that? Where was that?
Well, there's a.
She gave her Adderall.
Yeah, she's like, you forgot to pick up your prescription. I got it for you. Here it is, Adderall.
Oh yeah.
Being with how Alice, what she's done with Polly, could fully believe that.
Yeah,
100%.
So there is an implication of that here, but I mean the actress who plays Alice really well, so I was able to pick that up this time around. Yeah,
10 out of 10.
Great job, wonderful. I hate your guts. You did a good job, actress. But yeah, no,
hate your character's guts.
Yeah, that goes into a great question. I don't know anyone who does bad acting in this episode.
Archie.
Do you think Archie's the worst?
Yeah.
100%.
Actually, Biomon threw around some words before we started the podcast. I'll throw them out here. I think everyone overacts a little bit, and by comparison, makes Archie look normal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That I can see. Because to me, he's fine, but I guess in comparison to everything, yeah.
Than to everyone else. I find that Archie and the guy who plays Archie on a more like, he's doing great. He's got his acting down to a T. But at the same time, everyone else is such an exaggerated personality that his own acting seems almost like subpar and mediocre and even borderline like awkward, which playing a high school boy kind of makes sense at the same time.
That lends into one of my bigger critiques that I'll save for towards the end as we build up through the episode a little bit more. But yeah, I would pick Archie as quote unquote the worst actor in this episode.
Okay, I can see that.
And I guess.
But again, I wouldn't say any of them are bad performances.
Oh no.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Archie's a bad performance necessarily. I just, by comparison to everybody else, because like I said, they're over exaggerating to I think which better effects gets their character across, whereas Archie's far more plain. I'm gonna get into it right now. I think I don't know what to make of Archie's character just with episode 1. I don't like all the other characters. over the actors play them to a degree that I can get where their headspace is. I don't get that with Archie at all, unless he explicitly says it.
No, it just kind of says that he's jumbling three ideas of what to do, and he wants to do all of them.
Yeah, that's like I said. I wouldn't have get that from his acting. I get it because he explicitly tells me that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. My issue
The
with
only thing his acting tells me is he wants to talk to Miss Grundy.
pretty much, yes. I think. Shall we move on to the next scene? Because I think we got Veronica's introduction. So
Sure.
Did Betty's introduction.
Yeah, I forgot Betty's introduction has her topless.
it's okay. So does Archie's.
You know,
Yeah.
literally Archie and Betty basically introduced in the same scene along with Kevin. And one, if there's so much to unpack in the introduction of these three characters here.
The dialogue is quick. You pick up the history really fast. I think they definitely are exaggerations of their characters, but it serves as important of an introduction.
For a teen CW show, it's fitting.
Exactly. It is fitting. I think. Archie lives essentially across the street, right?
Yes. It's almost
Literally
like
next
a
door.
Peter Parker, Mary Jane window look scene.
I think
Exactly what it is.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. Is it out of character to let for Alice to let Kevin into Betty's room?
Gonna say no, because of how exaggerated he is with his sexuality.
He's so gay that even Alice picks it up.
I mean, he's so gay they don't have to explain it till much later when Veronica says it.
Yeah, Veronica's just a confirmation. Yeah, you definitely get the gay vibes instantly before then.
This isn't a Chief Holt situation.
Yeah, there's no build up to it. And it's Captain Holt.
Sorry, Captain. Police Chief, Captain. Yeah, sure. By the way, earlier I touched on Jughead's desktop having file names, and I wrote down a couple of them, just how production-based design they were.
Oh boy.
For a 1 second part. So we have file names called images, new pics, old folder, new folder, photos, a second new folder, and then 1945Z1. Just to name a few.
Could have tried a little bit harder, guys.
Yeah, I mean, for someone being a photographer, documenting, having 4 files all of photos.
Alright. I'll speak on behalf of Jughead as a writer. Yeah, we'd have our shit more organized than this.
Another detail is the font Jughead is writing with isn't listed, and it's just listed as font family, which is the collection of where fonts are supposed to be.
I saw that.
Hey, I will say, going through the intro of the show, having Jughead basically introduced at the end of the episode really did throw me off when I initially watched it.
Oh, you don't think there was enough presence of him at the beginning?
Well, it's just his voiceover and stuff almost makes you feel like he's going to be like an instant main character. And while it did throw me off, I find that having him kind of come in towards the end, plus what you eventually get to know as his character, really that also kind of sets up like who Jughead is as a character very well.
Yeah. Funny enough, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with Jughead. I actually find his absence in the pilot episode part of his characterization, and that he prefers to not get involved. And be an outsider and stuff like that, and just observe the ongoings. And the only time where he has a back and forth conversation is with Archie, um, uh, which we can get to the awkward dialogue of that later. But
I actually really liked Jug being a bookend situation of a character of very little at the beginning, very little at the end, and then just sporadically you can see him in the background at bits throughout the episode, so he's not just vanished or it doesn't look like he doesn't attend school.
yeah, no, the creators definitely put in the effort to make sure you don't forget him. So he's
Yeah.
definitely there sprinkled throughout. I think,
And I am a fan of the detail of the school bleachers where Jughead's in the corner, not shoulder to shoulder with any other person.
yeah, and he's got his laptop out because he's only half listening,
Yeah.
or transcribing down what Cheryl Blossom's saying because he wants to write it.
It's certainly, I would call it, honestly, a great little piece. Personally, like I said, when I first watched it, I was very put off. But after watching more of the seasons and watching the pilot recently, I have to say that it's some of the best character setup out of the pilot.
For Jughead?
Yeah, I think out of everyone, Jughead has my favorite character introduction.
I'm probably in agreement with that, actually, because, funny enough, we aren't told much about him as a character. It's all shown to us. The only line that's dropped in to us is to fill us in on his history. So I'm kind of in agreement with that. I think he probably is one of the best set up characters from the first episode.
Ooh. He is up there. I don't know if he's number one. I don't know if I have a number one slot. The best introduction.
Yeah. I said I didn't really think about it. He's up there, though, for me as well. I'm labeling him one for now because I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that could beat him out as terms of being set up for number one.
I'll have to think on that one. I picked up a detail. I'm unsure if either of you two did, but when Archie and Betty are having their little date at Pop's and chatting, there's a shot of outside the diner, and you see like a train going by on the opposite end window, and Pops walks by. To me, I thought the audio changed. I couldn't tell if it was altered, edited audio, or if it's mics used differently to seem like someone's outside listening in.
Like ADR?
Yeah, it could, yeah, it could be ADR. It could have been also just recorded. I don't know if it was recorded outside, but I could definitely pick up that the audio changed of the shot location used.
Because it's outside, they might have chosen to like incorporate that, and then once we're inside, obviously that audio gets cut out.
Yeah, it's just a nice detail I picked up.
Yeah,
that is a nice detail. I'm going to have to rewatch the pilot again just to notice that. See if they do it anywhere else.
Yeah. Let's see. Do I have anything about that scene outside of the obvious one of Archie instantly finding Veronica somewhat attractive?
Yes, the hot girl getting the slow-mo shot.
Definitely a classic trope. I think it might just be that we come into the tail end of their conversation with Betty talking about the summer internship away. But the issue that I think I take with it is because we get like a quote that's meaningful to her out of context for us, and we just get Archie agreeing and finding it very, very insightful. I think I found that awkward just because we don't have the context of the quote, because it's clearly impactful for the characters. So as an audience member, I feel left out, I guess. I don't know. When the intention of the scene obviously is to pull us in a little bit more to their relationship and what the state of it is. I think it serves to kind of push me out a little bit. I don't know if I have an objective issue with it, but it might be a subjective one.
I actually have a note on this scene. When Veronica walks into the diner and it's because I decided to look up the actual script for Riverdale, and I guess I just have to read this verbatim from the script. Is um, it says, "In comes Veronica wearing a fetching quote. Like a Kim Basinger in L.A. Confidential, she turns and makes eye contact with Archie. It's like when Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio see each other through the fish tank in Romeo and Juliet."
That's in the script?
That's in the script.
That's funny.
Wow.
Wow.
I believe it with how many just references to other things they make in the show of like identifiers that they did it so in the script.
Yeah, I totally believe it was in the script. And they obviously have a lot of emphasis on the two of them seeing each other. She's the new girl, and she's about to play a huge role in all of their lives. Because she is the change that's part of the change that's coming to their little small town friend group.
Do you think if it wasn't for Veronica, Betty would have asked Archie to be a boyfriend?
With how I see her the rest of the episode, I'm going to go with no.
I would say yes, because that's in the literally what she was in the process of doing, and Archie completely tunes her out during the scene, and Eddie, realizing he's not paying attention, has to look at what he's looking at, sees Veronica, and goes, it's essentially like an fuck moment
That's true.
for Betty.
I'm
Because
gonna go with yes. Actually, you're right. I think Kevin did convince her, more or less, to go for it before Veronica arrived.
Okay.
That being said, though, she does spend the rest of the episode not doing it and having to be kind of forced into the situation to do it by Veronica or Kevin.
Yeah, and I think that's fine because of Veronica.
Yeah,
It's
no.
because of Veronica that she didn't go for it. So it is a bit of an awkward tension if that's your new friend you just made, who you saw the guy you want to ask looking at, but she's telling you to. It's this triangle.
Yeah, they've set up a
They set
classic
up
love
very
triangle.
nicely.
They set up a classic love triangle. Yeah.
I think
Anyone else
successfully, I would say.
yell at their screens and applaud when Luke Perry came up?
You bet
Fred
I
Andrews?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. In case anyone's curious, audience, I think we were in unison that Luke Perry as Fred Andrews was like the best character.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really
Archie's
great
dad.
without a
guy.
doubt.
Archie's dad, by far and
Yeah.
away, the best actor that's too good for this show.
Too good for this show.
He's a character too good for this show.
Yeah, Biomon, did we have a poster of Fred Andrews?
We
Like a
did,
smaller one?
actually. We did indeed get I think you found it in a hole in the wall gift shop somewhere, and I don't know if you grabbed it when we moved or if I have it in a box somewhere, but I know that there's like it's got to be like a small poster. It says Riverdale, and
Yeah.
it's just Fred Andrews, only because
But it's like
it's
yellowed.
the best. Yeah, it's like yellowed, and it looks like like an apocalypse movie poster.
Yeah. I just
Kind
remember
of.
seeing it, and you were yeah, and I remember the only thing that's coming to mind I said was, he's not on the big one we have.
Yeah, he's
Which was
not
the
on the
reason to
big
get
one
it.
for such a.
That's reason enough to get.
Yeah, he wasn't. It was reason enough to get it. I mean, he's such a major character, and he's just not part of the big one. Even like Betty's mom is on the big one, I think. Am I right on that?
No.
I don't think I'm right
think
on
it's
that. I think
just
I'm
the
wrong.
teens.
I think it's just the
Josie's
teens.
on it.
Is it just
But
Josie's on it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a little sense.
Yeah. I wouldn't say he's the best main character, but he's definitely the best side character.
Yeah. Even going with episode 1,
Oh, yeah.
writer, I'm gonna let you know, recap when Crimson asks his question like, who was your favorite character this season? I don't know if anyone's gonna beat Fred Andrews.
For this season?
For season 1?
Well,
No.
for a pilot season currently.
A pilot episode.
Oh, I have someone
Like when we
better.
get to recap, and that question's asked.
Characters better than Fred Andrews, like in total of our season for shows. Yeah, there's characters better out there than Fred Andrews. Within Riverdale, no, there's not really many characters better than Fred
no.
Andrews. Let's see. I had something for when we were at dinner.
In Pops?
Yeah, I'm looking through right now. Oh yeah, Betty's makes great facial expressions at Archie, but with the way it's shot, Veronica can clearly see them. So I appreciate the showrunners trying to give me Betty's state of mind and her expressions, but Veronica would have picked up on it because she's just standing right there, and so would have Archie actually. But the best you can assume is that they're just so into each other they just completely forgot about her.
Yeah, I can go with Veronica definitely picking up with how observant she is to her surroundings. Archie's dumbfounded. I think it's totally fine for him to be blind.
Yeah. Especially later on, because I think Veronica's best moment of observation is when she's watching Betty glare at Cheryl Blossom give her the speech at the school. It's very, very subtle, but it's nice to kind of that it's a clue in that she's picking stuff up.
Yeah. A little detail I picked up that I'm sure we all did, of Archie in the morning going to first day of school, and he's wearing a long sleeve white shirt to highlight like his bright red hair, which is immediate catch to me of Jason Blossom.
Yeah.
However, they didn't use it in this episode.
Yeah, it's a next episode thing, unfortunately. Spoilers, but
But I just wrote down, I'm like, that's gonna trigger Cheryl.
yeah. I have something else to talk about that scene where Archie's first in the school. They actually set up one of their future storylines in this episode, or in that scene. The boys keep track of their conquests.
Oh, yeah.
They set that up here, and with in isolation to the episode, it's a good joke. It just comes across as boy banter, not really anything serious. And so we have, I think, yeah, we have the tour guides. This is how we find out about Veronica's father, like overtly, because it's kind of hinted at earlier on with why Veronica and her mom have moved into town. It's because they have a property here that doesn't have their father, her Hiram's name
on it.
Yeah, so let's call him Hiram. Just gonna keep it simple. And evidently the whole school knows already, which is classical high school gossiping.
It's a small town.
Which also helps. It gets around doubly fast, double speed.
It is. Yeah. No gossip like small town gossip.
Yeah. Which I'm just gonna leave you to a scene that I actually actively hate. Archie meeting the Pussycats.
Oh. Yeah, I don't blame you.
This scene,
being that I'm watching it for the pod with an objective lens now, there's a detail I caught that I think makes a line stand out worse.
Oh, God.
Go on.
Josie tells Archie it is a closed rehearsal, yet the door in the background's open.
Cool. More reason to hate the scene. This scene does not need to exist because the band here is introduced later on in the episode, and it serves no purpose other than to introduce them as a group of like your typical cliche, like preppy band schoolgirls that are like really, really self-centered. I don't think it's necessary because we could have gotten that enough with much less.
There's only two things for me that work with this scene. One, it sets up Josie's introduction, which is fitting to what we three know of her later on, of
Yeah.
how dedicated she is. And two, it shows to me that Archie went to a school group before asking Grundy.
Yeah.
Which
Which
is
when you get into Archie and Miss Grundy's history, I find that it was for him the smartest thing that he had in his mind, which was in character, honestly.
I'll I think what I don't like about the dialogue is they just talk past each other, because I don't think Archie's there to with the intention of making them sing his songs.
No, it's a big miscommunication that doesn't even get to the point of communication.
Yeah, he's just there to
Yes.
talk. He just wants to be there to talk shop, and it's so unnecessary the way they treat him. You could get across
Yeah.
their characters without them needing to be this overt. It kind of gets under my skin. There's you gotta strike your balance with television writing for sure. But we cross into absurdity. We cross into absurdity in this scene.
Yeah, it's a bit much, and I understand what they were going for in this scene, but it really was very. It was like a blunt force instrument, which is what most of the pilot is, anyways. But
Instrument. Clever.
But
God, did it again. But it is very overdone. It's got to be my least favorite scene in the entire thing. I think personally it would have made more sense. Maybe if I'm just forgetting if this happened, correct me if I'm wrong, but did the Archie scene with Josie happen before, or I think it happened before the whole like prom thing, the dance?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It happens right before that.
Yeah.
It was before Archie confronted Miss Grundy on the stairs.
Yeah. Which I think if we had set up Josie and the Pussycats more as like a as an up and coming band rather than just like having it swung at you.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see. It would have been interesting to see as in passing, like Archie passes by an open door, he looks in and sees them with Miss Grundy, like Miss Grundy's helped teaching them, like giving them guidance.
Yeah.
That would have served two purposes. It shows Miss Grundy is the music teacher, and also shows that they're also the up and coming band that she's working with, like she's helping them out with certain things.
Yeah, it's like if they were only active during the summer months but won a battle of the bands, it shows like, hey, their music, you got some musical prodigies coming out, and then like that would be someone that you would like, search out. Like maybe he could have heard it in passing. Like I said, it's a very, very heavy scene, like heavy-handed.
I
agree.
It's funny that Kevin is the one that's caught up in Kevin's the one that spills Veronica to like all the what's cool and hip to do in Riverdale with all his like club knowledge and bars to drink at and pop shop.
Yeah. That I'm confused on something, and I don't know if it's out of character for Kevin. Because him coming up to Veronica and like answering all these questions and filling in seems like a very friendly gesture of him to do, and then Veronica says, "Oh my God, let's be best friends and really get to each other." And the next thing Kevin does is make a rumor about her dad, asking, like, is that too large of a step to like go with? Like, now we're friends, so I can ask this?
I was kind of in the same boat, but for the rest of the episode, Kevin's extremely blunt. So I think it's fitting for him to come out right out and ask Veronica, just to get it right out, concluded for him right out of the gate. I agree it's not a social...
It's a tone shift.
I agree it's a tone shift. I agree it's not socially... acceptable is not the right word, but socially, like, clever. However, it is in character, I think, because of how blunt he is at other times in the episode. Like, Kevin's one of the few people that backtalks Cheryl, even if it's briefly.
Okay.
So, and at least we're, I was gonna say we're sort of eased into the tone shift, but not really. uh, One interesting thing though is Betty has an issue talking for herself. If you haven't picked up on that by this point, you definitely get it in this scene because Veronica's kind of talking over her, and it's not necessarily rude. It's just Betty doesn't want to stop her from talking or like try to get her own opinion in. So even when Kevin starts piping in, Betty just kind of lets him.
Yeah. And I
So
think that's totally fitting with who Betty is in this episode.
I agree. It definitely fits what Betty is in this episode. But it's something we learn about her.
I also forgot until this episode of regular casted Reggie before he got recasted.
Who?
That's a name I'm not familiar with.
Reggie Keller, he's the guy who, when Archie's by his locker before the Josie cat scene,
I know
bumps
who
into him and asks
Reggie
us,
is.
like,
Yeah. Greg Euler?
is that the actor's name?
I don't know. You said someone got recast.
Yeah, Reggie.
Yeah, I think you're
I
right.
thought
He
he
does
was-
play a different character.
Because isn't in season 2 when there's a scene where Archie thinks someone's breaking into his house and it's Reggie with like Jingle Jangle or whatever?
Oh yeah.
But I'm like, it's 2 different actors.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I remember one of the high school kids being recast. That might be the incident that I'm remembering, but I don't remember the
It was
details.
a very, very aggressive recasting too.
Yeah.
Quite
So it
possibly.
just caught me off guard. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot he was a totally different character in the first season. Or a different actor.
Because I think that, but isn't the actor that's playing him right now isn't he still a part of the show? He's just playing a different character, which made it even more weird.
No, I don't think so.
I could be remembering the future stuff wrong because I remember him doing the whole red hood thing. Not red hood. I said it wrong last time.
Black Hood?
No, remember they formed the high schoolers form a group like the Red Hoods or whatever.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the Red Hoods. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him being in that, but I could be remembering it wrong because again I suppressed a lot of memories after season 1 and season 2. Sorry.
See, that's a part of memory I don't remember. So, could be.
Could be.
And if it is, that's real weird.
Possible.
It sounds like something that would happen.
So one thing I did appreciate points for Kevin because like Kevin can kind of come across as blunt to the point of being unfriendly sometimes, but I do like that he stands up for Betty and explains to Veronica that Betty and Archie are quote unquote endgame, like they're their relationship to be determined.
Yeah. Big Thanos battle. Something I like.
Yeah, we're
And that actually, Biomon, you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, for Kevin, you really like. I like paying attention to some like the key moments, especially in pilots, of like cementing character traits, and this moment of Kevin kind of standing up for Betty is something that you could come to expect of him quite often. As part of his character is like how he values his friends and going forward what to see of his character, when it comes to the main cast and how he interacts with them.
I'd agree with that, yeah, because one of the things you're always looking for in pilots especially is that foundation to build characters off of. You're getting their base traits and then you get to see where it's going to take them eventually. And I think starting out Kevin here was a good idea, giving it positive points.
Yeah.
Spurs? Okay.
No, I was sorry. I was pondering over. Yeah. No. I'm in agreement. A detail I picked up. It was right here when, after Kevin asks about like Veronica's dad, Hiram, and then it goes to the school assembly, and I don't know what it was about this one that it caught, but I realized that they've been doing it. I think it's really good. The use of sound transitioning. So like there's a pause in the scene we're looking at, and we hear audio start for the next scene, and then that's how it transitions into it. And I think it's very nicely done throughout this episode. So like when Cheryl's speech starts about Jason, we're looking at that previous hallway of Veronica, Betty, and Kevin.
Yeah, we're still
before it
lingering
goes
on them.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that audio cut transition, I think they do. It's good.
Yeah, I quite like it. That's definitely a comfort thing. I think for me, I appreciate whenever that happens. It's also a good detail too that Veronica has no idea who Jason Blossom is or what happened. So that she asks, and then we cut away because we don't need that explanation, but we could presume that they filled Veronica in. So it also saves time for the audience as well. So we're not getting like a repeated information.
Very good on the pacing.
Yeah.
Part of that. Writer. I know you
Yes.
focus on writing. So this line just stood out to me when Archie's reminiscing about his past with Grundy, and she asks, "What are you doing walking in this heat?" And he says, "Building character." Is that a plot line used in a meta joke?
Uh,
Because it's because of Grundy
yeah,
here
it's
that
definitely
it's building his character of what we see.
Yeah, it's definitely intended to be a multifaceted line for sure. I definitely smirked at it because you don't get me a lot with meta humor, unless it's like specifics like Deadpool who are supposed to be like that. You don't get me with it all that much. This one I like this usage because it's, as you said, it's multifaceted. Um, Not only does it work as a throwaway line that someone might actually say in real life as to why they're doing something, but it also works literally within the plot of the show in that we cut away to this specifically to build Archie's character.
Yeah. What did you think about it, Biomon? Or did it even stand out that much to you?
It itself didn't really stand out, but now you guys talking about it, it's got me thinking on it. Because yeah, honestly, it is a great meta line because I would say by this point you still don't know much about Archie
We know about his interest in music, and that's
himself.
pretty much the edge of his base traits.
Exactly. So I figure it's a great little nod that like, hey, this guy's very aligned of any importance so far.
They kind of, I had to put it like this, but they kind of, up until this point, they kind of play Archie as the perfect kid almost. What I mean by that is just like he's like, it seems like from the outside their intention was obviously to make Archie look to all appearances like just be like someone who could do no wrong. He's just a good person, and then
The
obviously
American boy.
the intention of this scene is to deflower that. Or to kind of take that away.
Oh, going through my
Sorry, Bob.
I was thinking through my notes. I have the script itself is what most notes are based on. Because I got curious on what the script it is, and they describe Miss Grundy as a sexy 22-year-old woman.
So a freshly minted teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of descriptors like that in the script for like every character.
That makes sense, especially if they're. It kind of makes sense, especially
Like,
for a pilot episode. They want to kind of get out the descriptors, but if they obviously to keep the notes going forward for
hmm
references.
It sounds interesting that it sounds like the
oh yeah,
script was more directing of the characters than the director could have. We don't have examples of what the director said to the actors, but it sounds like what would have been there is in the script.
Yeah, I mean, most of the times when you're
yeah, no,
when you
100%.
when you're joining modern shows, directors are mostly there just to make what's in the script come to life. So it makes sense. That's what the writers do. They get as descriptive as they can with their script writing, so the director has a lot of direction to go on because they're trying to keep a specific tone for the show overall. At least that's how I know it worked on. Funny enough, the CW Flash as well.
Huh. Didn't know that. Now, I know if Crimson was here,
Fun fact.
he would pinpoint something that I would have said I didn't like, which is Archie and Grundy looking at each other at the bleachers before the flashback. There's a camera zoom on Archie, and if that was the one instance of a camera zoom, it would have stood out as a nitpick to me.
But
But
it does it immediately to Grundy as well, right?
They do it also to Grundy, so it's a connection on both points of the characters. So it works good, at least to me.
I don't have an issue with that. I have less of issues with like single uses of camera angles and stuff like that. I think I already pointed out what I actually like in the scene outside of Jughead being alone, Veronica observing Betty. But we get the distinct impression already that Cheryl Blossom is kind of narcissistic, though it's laying the groundwork in a minor capacity. It's very subtle.
Yeah.
And it won't be going forward.
Yeah, yeah. The Cheryl introduction at the assembly is you kind of get when I felt when I first watched this was a like that a grieving rich kid who wanted to like thought she was gonna be like a grieving rich kid who wanted to give back to the community kind of deal,
Mm-hmm.
and I was aggressively wrong. Like aggressively wrong. Her like I speak with confidence that with like only a twin could have it. She would be like, we wouldn't say want to spend a year of mourning. We're gonna hold the school dance anyways, type deal. And it's all like, oh yeah, no, okay. So she's like, sure. She's giving back to the community, like the town all that. She's like, not like in above herself or like in anything or whatnot or like a narcissistic bitch. Like she sounds a little narcissistic. Grieving twin. They talk a lot of stuff. You and your twin are quote unquote inseparable. I have wrong. All caps.
I don't know how much it plays into Cheryl's intelligence of the act. Actually, it's not an act. Her sincerity of what Jason meant to her seems genuine.
That is pretty
And
much the
comes
only
across that
genuine
way.
sincerity that I know that comes from her.
But is she being smart enough that also she's using this as a pity act to get people to feel bad for her? I don't know how much is leaning on this is honestly for Jason and nothing else matters versus how much this is for her to be validated.
Why can it not be both?
Like it could be both. It's just
I think it's both.
it plays into the intelligence of her. Is she playing it that heavy-handed?
I think It's both. And you get the unhinged bits as well with the just I got red flags immediately with the whole way she was her phrasing her speech, like with the twins. Like, I could speak with the confidence that only a twin would know, and I'm just thinking in my head, and like that's not a normal sentence that a normal human would speak.
Writer, uh, you're not a real person.
Yeah, yeah. I'll dive a little bit into Cheryl a little bit here. I don't think Cheryl is a real person. I mean that in the context of the show, she doesn't come across as a real person at all. As either a member of as an audience, I just see archetype with her, and that's it. I don't see like anything that defines her as a character. Um, which is, I still, I'm marking that as an objective issue. Whether or not that's their intention, because the fact that she comes across like this is problematic with how she interacts with our group later on.
And you're using that with also the emphasized acting of everyone. Like, this is an emphasized.
Yeah, they're clearly emphasized. They're clearly overemphasizing. Like, she was asked to act this way, or and she's doing it more so to play the role. I think it's
but if you could visualize that where it's ground down to normacy, would that be still fake character to you?
With the same dialogue? Yeah.
Okay.
This is kind of a, I don't really talk about this much when it comes to our podcast. It comes down to the basic lines of how obviously the characters are intended to be human. So usually when I'm saying your characters doesn't come across as human, it's kind of a problem. So when I'm saying that she is not a real person, I'm saying she's not a believable person. Like the script and the writing didn't convince me that she is real. Like, I don't feel her presence outside of that archetypeness. It doesn't really leave that. So you don't get hints or glimpses into it. So she comes across as strictly a writing tool, and that is an issue when it comes to specifically for characters. If your character comes across as a writing tool, that's a problem. Well, let me clarify. Yeah. It typically comes across as a problem. There are characters that can act as MacGuffins that also serve as, which is essentially a tool, but they are characterized themselves. I think the example that jumped into my head is the little girl from Logan.
X-23.
Who plays X-23. She is definitely very much a tool in the writer's kit, but she still comes across as her own character. Outside of that, she is multifaceted in that way. I don't see that with Cheryl, and that's just with the pilot. So again, I'm filtering out everything else I know. So
yeah, everything to do with Cheryl's family. But yeah, okay. I'm not sure I 100% believe or agree with you, but I do see exactly what you're saying.
It's just the pilot issue, because I know that she is a quote-unquote character, having spent more time with the season, but this is just specifically striking the pilot.
Yeah.
Walking into the pilot, Cheryl, yeah, she does feel more like a writing tool, like that classic mean girl trope. That I'm queen bee of this school and everyone else is beneath me.
And I can't say even if that, because like I said, it wouldn't be an issue, but I don't even think they use that tool well, especially in the last act of this episode.
I think if she was layered, it would help blend that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that they all seem separated in each scene of her makes it that way. We see.
It also doesn't help that the plot enables her as well. So it's not just the character issues that are coming through, it's the plot, because jumping to the end here, our gang had no reason to go to Cheryl's at all. They're just there because their
Yeah,
plot demands them be there.
see, Veronica's the only one I could think of being like okay with it, and she talked Archie and Betty into it. But Betty and Archie would have not gone on their own.
Yeah, and I also didn't think Veronica would have gone after their interaction over the cheerleading squad, because we get that rant of them being quote unquote rivals from Veronica, which I'll get to in a minute. But it's that I think with that scene, I don't think it's in character for even Veronica to go. I think Veronica could be convinced, but I would need to see her be convinced.
I feel like there could have been some way around it, which is why it's passable to me. See, the thing that I think would have stood out, have been real weird, is if like Jughead was in the background. Like that would have been
Yeah, Jughead would never be at the party.
eyesore. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
the issue is that it's from what we understand of our group characters, Archie's specifically going out of his way to avoid Cheryl. I don't think any of them would have gone. And because they don't show it, it's out of character for them to be there. So, funny enough, like I agree with you, there's an inference that you can infer a way for them to have been convinced to go. But because them being there is out of character, we needed to see them explain why they're
Yeah.
there.
like if there was something about Reggie telling Archie to go with because he was present,
Yeah.
I could have aided. But
Which would help with Archie.
again, it's to me it's passable, but definitely could have been strengthened.
Yeah, it doesn't that specifically doesn't reach passable for me, but I get why, because like I said, I argue for inference every now and again as well. There's definitely something that can be inferred. It's just the inference here makes it out of character. Because without that inference, it's out of character is what makes it a problem. So like if it
What do you
was
think? Or-
yeah, so like kind of if it was in character for them to go to that party, we can infer that Cheryl moved some things in the background to get them to go to the party. But because it's out of character, I need to see how that was done, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What do you think, Biomon?
I'm gonna have to agree with Ryder over here that them going to Cheryl's party was quite aggressive, if I remember correctly. Because it really just says make sure that those people end up at my party, and then they just jump cut to the party, and I'm just not sure why I would be there. I remember thinking it when I first watched it. I remember thinking the same thing. Maybe I missed something on my second watch through of the pilot, and absolutely nothing I can think of really would convince those three.
Yeah, Cheryl's lackeys were tasked with doing it. Well, what did they manage to do?
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
we can infer that
did
Cheryl
the
has
Cheryl's lackeys-
We can infer that Cheryl has lackeys too because of the cheerleader scene as well.
Yeah, other vixens.
Yeah.
Like, am I supposed to think that this is a cheerleader get together and the girls just invited the boyfriends and it became a party? Did Cheryl purposely mislead them into thinking it was a friendly get together? Like, what am I looking for here that I'm supposed to think that would make, with everything that's been set up so far, that, Archie and Betty and Veronica would go to Cheryl's after party, and an after party for a school dance too. That one kind of got me as well, but I figured that was just me being nitpicky.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to believe that because even with Cheryl's non-human limited characterization, I think it's in character for her to do that. At that point in the story, I got enough from her. I'm like, okay, she's clearly partly in it for the attention. So
Yeah, the after party was fine to me. The one line that was weird to me was when Veronica gets home, Hermione says, "You're home early." And I'm like, how late did the school dance go? When did she leave the party?
Well, I mean, Veronica might have just expected him to be out late because they clearly leave the party at Cheryl's early. Um, so
Earlier than that party. But did the school dance get out and the sun was still up?
I don't know, but Cheryl has
It's
a sorry.
it's heavily. Oh,
You finish, Biomon.
go ahead. I was gonna say it's heavily implied that the dance happens after sundown due to, I guess, the lighting in the gymnasium and the fact that if I never in the background in the windows it's dark already. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I assume the dance happened at sundown. I guess the line is awkward, but I mean, Veronica could have just texted, which would be fine. So like, it would have helped explain why she's home early. Because as far as I understand the relationship at this point, Hermione kind of just lets Veronica do what she wants and within reason. So like, she doesn't have a curfew, Veronica, compared to
No.
Betty, who has a curfew.
Well, she brings up, living in New York, and then Kevin giving all the club ideas, which kind of show a little past of Veronica's lifestyle, where we three know later of how much that's cemented in her. But I think it's good details to pick up of Veronica's interests around town
Yeah, so
to
maybe
show that she's a bit of a party girl.
yeah, it could also be that because of all the party girl that she used to be, that her mom just expected her to be back late,
Yeah.
later than normal. So the fact that she's there at quote unquote a reasonable hour might have surprised her.
That definitely lines up.
Okay. I guess
Did
that's
not
not
think
me,
about
my
that.
personal thought. Then.
Yeah,
Like midnight, I'm like, midnight's early? It's like maybe earlier than 3 a.m. Oh, okay.
it's early for me. Kidding. It's late for me.
Yeah, just
Man.
that thought. Okay. I guess that
Midnight
follows
being
on to
early.
more of a
Springs,
personal thought.
Springs, maybe Biomon too. Do you remember our conversation over the pin that Cheryl wears?
Good question. Very good question. I wrote down when Cheryl sat down at the table when Archie got up at lunch, she's wearing a cherry brooch. And I'm like, what was the whole fascination with the brooches? I remember there's a big thing about the brooches.
Here's the thing. I don't remember it, but I'll tell you is that this is not the brooch she wears for the rest of the show. Because isn't it a spider for the rest of the show?
No, it's not. It changes
she has
every
so many.
episode.
Oh.
And we always try to identify the meaning.
So far, hold on. Why would you brooches? I have a whole conspiracy theory about this. Where did I have that document on my laptop? I do.
Oh, you weren't prepared?
Okay. I'm a little more prepared about the brooches. Why did you have to bring up the brooches?
I did because it's stuck in my memory, and I don't remember the full context behind all the brooches research that we did, because this is one of our conspiracy theories that we had while we were watching the show as a group.
It may have been the biggest conspiracy theory we had watching.
Okay, honestly, everything else, I have a whole ass Riverdale document. Oh my god. Everything else that we were watching, just makes going through the document here. I came to the conclusion that whichever Cheryl Blossom has a brooch. Normally it's only one brooch per episode. Sometimes it changes per scene, and you can guess her personality and how she's going to act based on the brooch she's wearing. This, though, does not have concrete evidence due to the fact that even going scene by scene on certain episodes, much further in, the brooch she's wearing does not, in fact, reflect what she is doing that episode. So it's a very hit or miss theory, but it's the most solid one out of all of them so far.
But standing back what I've said back then, what I've said over the podcast, and now, there is a reason for costume design to have it that way. It's a choice that they put in for some unknown reason.
I almost want to go through this entire show again.
It would make no sense to change a brooch mid-scene for some reason if it meant nothing.
She does change a mid-scene too. She does.
There's gotta be a point.
I feel Crims is
Which
rolling in his grave somewhere. But to be clear, I am in
Okay.
agreement. I definitely think the costume designs are intending to do something.
This is completely off topic, but now you've got me on the brooches, so I just gotta go for a second. Was it season 2 or season 3 where quite literally in the middle of a conversation Cheryl's having with Betty and Veronica that the brooch just changes? Like it goes from like a spider or like a bee to completely something different.
Yeah, that sounds
Like
right.
they focus
You're
off of
definitely-
Cheryl and then they
Actually, was that the season? What's the season where they try to get Archie to be the new Jason with the maple tapping?
oh fuck.
I'm like, doesn't it change from a spider to like a maple leaf or something?
It does, like mid conversation with the girls.
We had to pause the show because we talked about it for so long.
Cheryl Blossom's brooches, people. Pay attention. It means something. I swear it does.
Well, if
What
it
it
does,
means,
if it
you
does,
have no idea.
Biomon, if it does, please enlighten all of us here. During the lunch, she's wearing a cherry. What's the significance?
What's the significant? Her name is Cheryl. So I think this one I think is quite literally just a hammer equals nail kind of situation because her name is Cheryl Blossom. Cheryl sounds like cherry blossom. She has red hair and she's the queen bee of the school. The cherry brooch is meant to represent like literally her character.
Yeah, this is
She is the cherry on top.
This is her.
She's supposed to be the quote unquote cherry on top.
Yeah, this is the her first quote unquote real scene interacting with our character. She obviously has had scenes before, but this is like an in time event, pretty much directly interacting with our characters. So there's some understanding to go into that it might just be the hammer on nail, like it's just that obvious for this one.
I actually do not have the first few episodes of Brooches on this document because it wasn't until halfway through season 1
that we realized
that we noticed the
Where it
Brooches.
finally started, yeah. We did
So
go back and
I-
rewatch the brooches.
No, please, no. Oh, it would be
Except for
fantastic.
today.
Except for today.
Except for
Which, hey, good detail to pick up. She has a brooch in episode 1.
She does have a brooch in episode 1, and you know what? They do set up the brooches. I'm not sure what they're setting up with the brooches, but they do set them up.
I guess this leads into that scene specifically. What do we think about their lunch table discussion?
Ryder, there's a detail that I think I'll let slide, but it really made me question something.
Go
With-
on.
How you brought up during the Harry Potter character tier list last season of Hagrid playing music noticeable to audience and in world. When Veronica's looking for a lunch table, Archie's music is being played to the audience before narrowing down from his laptop. I couldn't tell if it really tickled me under my skin, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna find it passable because he's playing it the entire time, and it's for us to know the context of what Archie's doing at his table, and not so much of Veronica hearing it from that far away.
I'm more okay with it here because it's not music. It's not out of world music, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's character made.
Yeah. So which helps with the diegetics of the scene. And if that song had been playing and it just fades away and we just cut to them like talking around the table, would have been fine too. But the fact that it's Archie singing is okay. So we're hearing the song before. It doesn't bother me as much as hearing the Imperial March in Star Wars universe.
Oh god.
That one is still our most egregious one, I think.
That is quite horrid.
Yeah. So don't watch the Solo movie. Biomon. It's not worth it.
No, everything I've been told says so.
I'm looking for my notes because we jumped to the lunch scene, which is a bit ahead. See where I got here.
Oh, sorry. Well, we've kind of been jumping around now.
Yeah. Actually, I think that was the only note I had for the lunch scene.
Fair enough. I like the dynamics of the character. I like that Archie just makes an excuse to leave because he doesn't want to deal with Cheryl. Which, you know what, I totally get, having from what Cheryl Blossom is in this episode. I also
There is a detail I picked up. Yes.
Yeah, and I also like Kevin chastising Betty very quickly over the fact that she hasn't asked Archie out yet, and that Betty quickly gets information to Veronica not to talk about Archie around Cheryl. It's very quick, but some good dialogue. I quite liked it.
A detail I picked up in use of subtitles. When Cheryl leaves, she leaves her Twitter handle.
Oh yeah,
and the subtitles
there
have the @ symbol of her handle.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Yeah, no, it's quite fun.
But cheerleading tryouts, yay!
The cheerleading tryout scene.
Quickly, before we get to that, I know a little thing I caught that it just seems so, just an unusual usage that really is just like, because of the relationship going on with the two characters. When after the title sequence, when Archie talks to Miss Grundy on the staircase, he refers to her by first name as Geraldine, and she refers to him as Mr. Andrews.
Well, he ends up using Geraldine when she doesn't. Yeah, when she doesn't respond to her last name.
Yeah, but then she returns back with Mr. Andrews, which just seems the opposite of a normal setting, which just seemed interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then doesn't he start using Miss Grundy as soon as
he starts using Miss Grundy? She starts using Archie. But...
Yeah. So obviously, I think the first name thing is just to get her attention. Like, to get her to look at him more or less, because obviously she's just trying to avoid him.
The purpose of him to use the name, yes. But the one-on-one back and forth that happens with it, I thought was just very interesting of a relationship situation of what they have. Because Archie really doesn't want to... It's a really weird subconscious thing with his character of like, he says he doesn't want to continue what they had over summer, but just like talk about the situation, but doesn't want to continue it. But his whole music purpose going forward is because of her, I think.
Yeah.
Because Fred brings up earlier, like over summer it was all about the construction job, which means music wasn't a thought process at the beginning of the summer until he hooked up with the music teacher, which I think sparked that in his head to go down that path.
We also have the thing that he does tell Betty, which is that because his work was so laborious and just kind of boring in that respect, he just started thinking a lot, and that's how he started writing song lyrics eventually.
Yeah.
But the whole hooking up with the music teacher definitely could have connected to that. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. If it did or didn't.
It's good to know the himbo protagonist is thinking.
Yeah, it's true. Let's see.
A dangerous pastime, I know.
Yeah. Do we want to go to the cheerleading? Yeah.
That is if no one had anything over Fred and Hiram or Hermione. Sorry, Fred and Hermione.
The only quick note that I have of it is they're force feeding us their history when I think they didn't need to do that. Like with the whole that they used to date, I don't think that was necessary for the scene. That crosses over into like the heavy-handed writing. It works, not really needed. So
honestly, yeah, a solid hit or miss scene. That's about all I got for it.
Okay, I'm agreeing with not needed, but I think wanted to help the pace of anything other than just these high school kids, like the world going on around them.
Specifically with the relationship stuff, or specifically with them? Like, I don't. I think the scene
With
is like
them,
I think the scene is needed. I'm just talking about the specific dialogue and their relationship history.
no, yeah, I'm going with just the use of like cutting to something other than the kids of the high school.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like, and characters we've seen before already,
yeah.
not introduction to anyone.
I agree. I like the scene. I want it to stay. I think I would rework some of the dialogue so it isn't so heavy-handed.
Do you think Hermione's trying to be seductive in any way?
At this point, no.
Okay.
Spoilers for the rest of the show with whatever I just
Well.
hinted.
I don't know if the dating, bringing up dating was a like trigger to that, to try to get Fred to give her a job, like tried to be flirtatious.
It could also just be ripping off the Band-Aid in the room, like ripping off the Band-Aid and just kind of like it would be the elephant in the room that they would need to address one day, you know.
Okay.
So that could be her perspective on it.
But Fred's understanding and shutdown is on par.
Yeah. Shocker, Fred Andrews, great character. Once again, happy to see him moving about in the world.
Okay, and then when this we can go to cheerleading.
All right, I'll go first. I like the intention of the scene. It's meant to obviously be that Veronica backing down the girl boss and Cheryl, and kind of setting up the quote unquote rich kid rivalry a little bit. I like the intention behind that. I think there are parts of Veronica's speech that works, and there are parts that absolutely do not. We could lose the fire and ice bit at the end, and we can lose a lot of that stuff about her being the reckoning. But anyway, that's just me. I think I would want to rework half the dialogue of this scene. It's kind of a cringy headache.
The reckoning I found is part of that cringy headache. I do like the ice bit though.
I think the thing is, my issue with that is more with the show's pacing and contextualizing their characters. The reason I don't like that bit, while I do like that bit, but I would rather it not be here, is because it should have been implicit from the characters without her having to point it out. If that makes sense. Like the characters
More show than tell.
Yeah, the characters should have been characterized for us at this point that it wasn't needed. It's there because they weren't. I know we're balancing a lot of storylines. It's just that's what makes that's part of one of my larger issues overall with at least episode 1 of Riverdale. A lot of the dialogue is ham-fisted, and that falls under ham-fisted dialogue for me. So while I like the intention behind that line, I like the dynamic they're setting up with it. It's just it's too ham-fisted for me enough to give it a passing grade, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the lesbian kiss is just there to get butts in the seats for the show. That's pretty much all I see it for.
Perverts.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's there for. That's all I see it. That's the purpose it serves. It's there to just hook CW watchers in. Though, yeah, so, sorry, I talked a lot. Biomon, why don't you go next?
I was going to say, honestly, the cheerleading tryout scene, wow, is exactly what's needed for the two rich girl rivalry setup type deal, and kind of show Veronica as the more reasonable of the two. Again, I find the lesbian kissing scene exactly. It's just meant to fill seats, and it, in my mind, was completely unwarranted, because why would you do that for cheerleading tryouts? Like, what's the point?
Well, I think the point was
with
just
the
to shock
character
Cheryl, but
and a friend you've met a day and a half.
You've known this person for at tops by the time the dance happens, you've known this person for. And you're really, could you imagine just knowing someone for a week and be like, hey, don't freak out, but trust me, and then you just fucking start making out with them?
I don't think they started making out, but they definitely kissed on the lips.
certainly. But anyways, it's it's all right. The cheerleading tryout scene, it take it or leave it. Personally,
I'm
it
gonna go
was
with writer that it could have
just
been reworked. I think it's definitely
yeah,
a good use of Veronica's situation with Cheryl.
Yeah, it does a good job setting up Veronica's character because we get context for this scene pretty much right after when they're walking out in their new uniforms, which we'll touch on that in a second. It's just the so like yeah, it serves its purpose, but the fact that I see it as a purpose is a problem. Um, it's good setup for Veronica's character. I really want to rework the ham-fisted dialogue because it gets on my nerves.
yeah.
um,
I 100% agree with that.
yeah, because this is the scene where Veronica would absolutely talk Cheryl down because they come as a matching set. Like that bit I actually really quite like. They come as a matching set, or like they're going together, or they're not coming in at all to the cheerleading club. That bit I really do like as part of the dialogue, so I have some dialogue to actually praise in this scene. Um, it solidifies kind of a both. Well, I'm losing my train of thought. It solidifies Veronica's perspective towards Cheryl and also Cheryl's perspective on them, and it also solidifies kind of the kinship that she's forming with Betty because Veronica's also trying to start her life anew, and she's just trying to keep her what friends she has, you know, not letting Betty be bullied for no reason.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I like it. It raises her as a paints Veronica in a more of a heroic light, or that she's trying at least to be on a better character person, which is good.
Yeah. I spotted a
Yeah.
detail, which I don't know if is a mistake, but as soon as Veronica and Betty kind of finish the routine, and it cuts to Cheryl asking, "Where's the heat? Where's the sizzle?" and cuts back, Veronica no longer has her pom poms in hand.
I don't think either of them do. It's just
Betty does.
Betty does.
Where did the
So I
pom
don't know if
poms go?
Veronica just dropped them or they vanished.
It's possible that she dropped them, but I'm gonna go with vanished. Into thin air.
I also wrote down after the kiss they had. I take it where you're from, Veronica, people are making out around every corner of New York. Or perhaps you just assumed two people that close to each other in New York alleys were making out.
Again, I don't think it crosses
Maybe.
over to making out, but okay.
Oh, just how, like, kind of out of the blue the move was.
Yeah, I think I legitimately the character intention is to shock Cheryl. It obviously doesn't, but I think that's the
Shocks
character
Betty more.
intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shocks Betty for sure.
Also, the detail of Cheryl sitting in, like, a throne. Like a personalized brought seat.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, it's a big brown, like, armchair.
That's very in character. Very her, I guess.
Yeah, and I would take it on school grounds with her vixens, her cheerleading squad. It's just there, so it doesn't seem like that bad of a thing. And it's not huge, so it just seemed fine. But it definitely stood out as different chair than any of the other ones.
Yeah. Honestly, as I've said before, they did a
Go on.
they did a lot with really cementing Cheryl's queen bee-ness of the school. I think one thing I just kind of jump in see Cheryl purposely provoking Betty during the tryouts.
Oh, the interview portion.
Yeah, the interview portion of the tryouts.
Do you want to talk about how shitty
I
the
think
cuts were on the hands? Like just the quick cuts that constantly made on Betty's hands. That was really unneeded and terrible.
yes, that's actually what I was going to get into. Is the camera work on this scene was aggressive to say the least. It
That's your
I
department,
don't know.
Sprints. If you got some
I
commentary on
personally
that.
didn't like this.
Yeah.
The thing I liked about it is quick cuts to show quick tension and focused on points, because I feel like in the discussion that's what it would be, eyes on the speaker, and like people would be kind of tense because of the hostility going around. But the cuts to Betty's hands, I don't think they were all I mean, just the last one I think is all that was needed.
Yeah. The fact that they kind of make it into funny enough, a montage of cuts on Betty's hands, I think that's my least favorite selection of editing and camera work in this first episode.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah, no.
That I could remove. The 3 hard cuts or 3 quick cut montage of her hand. Just have the last one, because it even has a wide shot of her and Veronica, and her hands are already clenched, so you can already see that.
You can see Veronica looking at her hands because Veronica's observant. I actually think if I were to guess and there were deleted scenes, I think Veronica would have actually noticed that Betty left marks on her hands because of how observant Veronica is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Also,
I
interview
agree
portion.
with that.
Veronica got one question about Betty and passed, which just shows how much of a bitch Cheryl is.
Yeah.
Yes.
As Veronica states rightly, that she's just trying to bully Betty into snapping back or whatever.
Yeah. Which, at least there's something there of a reason why.
Yes,
because of Jason and Polly's relationship.
Yeah, there is reason there. We also know why. At least could infer why Alice really hates the Blossoms now. Even though we get more context from Betty in a few minutes about the actual truth behind it.
Yeah. Which, watching the pilot for the first time, that one hit me like a truck. Your mom's a bitch.
Yeah. Which also kind of helps with Alice's thoughts on other people. At least just for this pilot of like, because she always asks like, that Cheryl's cheerleading, the Blossoms, and always making a thought of Betty of her choice to the parents. Like, oh, I'm hanging out with Veronica Lodge. It's like, Lodge, Hermione's daughter. It's always going to a parent. So her past history, if quote unquote, if she has any accusations.
The D&D season's fun, everybody.
Oh, what a word to use! Fun.
We had alcohol, so you're better believe it was fun.
Yeah. I think it's a little odd that after this cheerleading thing, Archie on football, he's by himself. He's far off by himself, not doing anything.
It's definitely filmed weirdly, but as someone here who's actually watched football practices, because I'm a 49ers fan, my boy Biomon over here is a Rams fan. We there are definitely some lone drills you can run, so it's not an impossibility as to why he would be alone. As far as we know, he could just catching balls from being thrown at him from somewhere else, or he's just doing some lone stretching and other kinds of work, which is totally with it fine. The weird thing that I'm taking from this is the fact that it's like stormy out, and then when we see him immediately in like a minute or two, it's sun's back out.
The weather.
The weather.
Did the sun come back out?
Yeah, when Betty and Veronica.
Oh yeah, okay. When Betty and Veronica were going by, yeah. I thought you meant in the scene of him talking to the coach.
No, not in this scene. Yeah, there is a. I'm not sure the time change, but obviously I think it's more than a day. It has to be, considering.
Okay, it cleared up. Yeah.
It's funny that you actually specify that that Archie is playing by himself, because it's actually um the coach turns to look at Archie and notices Archie's by himself at another part of the field, and he's not really doing much. So that's the entire reason why the coach like goes and talks to him.
Oh, I thought he was calling him over to just talk about, like, hand him Jason's jersey and like talk to him about varsity. It's
Well,
possible, yeah.
that's entirely what he does. But like in the script, it's all like, actually, hold on, let me pull that up
Since you
real
have
quick.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was.
Either way, it's insight into
I got
the
curious.
camera angle. Yeah.
What were you saying?
No, I was gonna. Either way, it's insight as to why they chose to film it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, pulling up the script, it quite literally says Clayton turns and he's by another part of the field. He grabs his attention.
Okay, so he could still be doing solo drills, but it's definitely
could
filmed.
be. He
It's
could
definitely
be.
filmed oddly.
It really is.
Yeah, I guess not
It really.
not necessarily filmed oddly, like the cinematography choice. It's more of just like the choreograph, like the position. Because I can totally guess the coach is looking around. I'm assuming these are all the JV football students because they probably all train together, and he's looking for who to give that varsity Jason number 2, and that's where he appears on Archie.
Yeah. So when you say bad, when you say bad choreography, you mean it's just like Archie being in a weird position, or like
It's
doing?
like he's picking dandelions. Like he's not in the middle of a solo training. He's
Yeah.
staring off in the opposite direction and turns when he hears his name. So it's like his position they had him in the scene.
Oh, so
to
like
get
he's
to the
like
coach.
he's quote unquote getting set for a play almost without the play being called.
Yeah. I think it would have been better if Archie was actually doing laps and the coach sees him jogging and tells like Andrew slow down and gets his attention that way.
Yeah,
So
because
Archie's actually doing something.
because there's definitely, like I said, there's definitely exercises that you can do from where the position that Archie's in, even if you're like practicing. I think for those who don't watch football as much, it would have been easier to have him do something that's more identifiable, like jogging. That would work better. Because I mean, I assume the reason they don't do the jogging thing is because that's how Veronica and Betty come across him in the scene afterwards. So they didn't do it twice in a row. You know what I'm saying?
He could have.
What?
I mean, yeah, he could have been catching a football. He could.
Yeah.
I just would have liked Archie actually in the middle of some kind of training.
Yeah, I would have. If I were to choreograph the scene, I would have absolutely had him be throwing a football. Because obviously, later down the season, as a spoiler alert, it would also set up that they're trying to train him to be a quarterback. So having him like get the ball like from like hiking the ball, getting it like in running through a passing drill or something like that would work. So I would want him passing the ball. It would be the simplest thing to do for at least choreography wise. Got any thoughts on that, Biomon?
No, it's pretty well said. Like, it would be better to have Archie doing something, but otherwise you guys covered that one pretty nicely.
All right, fair enough.
And I think the scene is good to add more weight to Archie's decision making of the things going on in his head.
Yeah.
Rather than later just being like, oh, football practice, like when he's talking to his dad, but we don't see how, inclined Archie is. I mean, he recognizes Jason's number right off the bat. I think that really helps, like how invested Archie is to what's going on.
Yeah, I think he is, because we don't really get much characterization for Archie. We just get a bunch of things happening to Archie. I think this scene for me illustrated the kind of running thematic through line that go through a lot of stories. It's just the great expectations, like a young person just trying to live up to a bunch of things that they want to do. So like I think he does care about football. He does care about music. It's just it's hard for him to balance all those things, which is why he reflexively lies that he doesn't want to commit to more than he's already doing, you know?
Yeah.
Also, Archie is a liar. But to be fair, he's kind of... It feels right in the sense that he's pressured into it. Because he doesn't know what he wants to do yet. Or he knows he wants to do music somehow, but he doesn't want to give this up completely.
Yeah. Well, he finds a way to do all three.
By the end, yeah.
Music in the morning, football afternoons, and Andrew's construction on weekends.
Yep. It'd be amazing for him to have any time
I mean,
doing
it kinda
anything else on the
shows.
show. With all of that scheduling.
Yeah, it'd be crazy that, that's what they got to stick Archie's character to with and not skip days or lessons or something.
Yeah.
In my notes, I have Archie got asked out to a dance by 2 cheerleaders. Fantasy, am I right?
That's funny. That's actually pretty funny.
He does walk into the dance with literally both of them on his arms.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure it's happened to people, but definitely trailing towards a little bit of fantasy here. Though he's a jock, so it kind of makes more sense.
No, he's a jock now.
Yeah, and as Kevin said at the start of the pilot, 6 more reasons to do it.
Yeah.
To grab
Archie
that
got
ginger
hot.
bull by the horns.
Pulled by the horn. Or during the after party, what is it Cheryl says? Who wants to ride the ginger stallion?
I forgot that was a line of dialogue in this show.
God, that's
There's a lot of cringe dialogue in this show. So
It's a teen drama.
the teen
By
drama.
CW.
By CW.
CW.
So the quick note, I actually do think this is all supposed to happen in a day because Archie's dad gets a phone call from the coach at some point after school. I'm skipping ahead a little bit because we go from that scene to them dressing up in cheerleader uniforms, right?
Yeah.
It goes from it goes from football to the cheerleader uniforms to
Them outside because they're giving each other more of their context for history.
Yeah. I take it they're walking home at that point.
Yeah.
something like that.
I would assume so as well. I quite like the exchange that Veronica and Betty have. It contextualizes Veronica's character and it contextualizes Betty's point of view both towards the Blossoms and her character a little bit as well. And why her mom...
Family drama bonding.
Yeah, exactly. Trauma bonding is... and drama bonding is always fun to do.
Yeah, I don't think they got to the point of trauma at a
Yeah.
beach yet.
Not yet.
No.
Yeah. But
Yet.
considering this is like right afterwards, is this supposed to be like that same day they completed their cheerleading tryouts?
I think so.
Okay, then I do have an issue. How do they have uniforms already?
I think they got accepted.
How do they have uniforms already? That's not how school systems work in the United States.
No, they would have sizing, and it would be a week or so before getting them. Yeah, but being Cheryl's, I don't know if just backups already in the back when the last uniform change, anything from school colors or anything. I guess these are still last year's, and
Could
tryouts
be.
were being made. So, and it's Cheryl, so they could just have them on hand.
Yeah, there's inferences to make. I'm just pointing out. I think I have a minor issue just because it seems too fast. Like they passed it, and then they could, if they had finished their sizing and then got back into like their normal clothes, and then this is what the scene took place in. I think it would have been fine. But specifically, it shows them getting. She has her new uniform, and it fits perfectly. I have some issue with it. It's not egregious. It's just a minor nitpick.
Yeah, I can agree. That's not how reality works in that instance.
Yeah. I think Biomon cracked a joke at me about how rich the school is.
Yeah, how much money is that school throwing around in order to have like cheerleader uniforms ready to go in general?
Well, it also could be how much is actually coming out of the Blossom's own pocket. If this is Cheryl's hobby.
You've got me there.
That's true. Like I said, that could be possible. There are inferences. It is a nitpick. It won't affect my overall objective score. Obviously, at least this one won't. Um,
It's unfortunate that Biomon has a bit of a time instance for us today of a cutoff. And I'd like him to, Biomon, if you have any more points specifically that stood out to you for the rest of the show to get in before probably just giving your own summary of your time cut.
if you wanna, you feel free to, before you leave, give us all of that. But
I'm gonna say honestly, all in all, the pilot does do a great job of setting up what you expect of season one. Nothing is gonna come down on you character wise that's gonna throw you off, and every and that's good. The that's mainly what I look for. I'm gonna say subjectively, it's probably one of the most mediocre pilots I've ever watched. It's not bad. It's not good. It's barely even. I would consider it certainly a pilot that I have watched. Um, Objectively, it's got its problems, but at least I feel like right now, at this stage of the show, it knows what it is and the budget it has, and they're doing the best they can. The writing could be better. The choreography could definitely be better in some instances. Um, Line delivery is a big one that doesn't get better. Or maybe it does. Depends on your perspective as the show goes on. I've got don't really got much else really.
all right.
Kind of. I think the only thing I want to touch on is the very end of the episode, when Kevin and Moose find Jason's body
Go on.
and just kind of a little like how ridiculous that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, very. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. Um, I feel like this scene kind of makes Kevin feel more like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a caricature. I always have a
Caricature.
problem pronouncing that one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Of a gay person rather than like a believable one. Much like how Cheryl does. I think in this scene, Kevin feels less like a person, more like a writing tool. Kind of like how Cheryl's felt all episode.
I can see that. I think the enthusiasm and extra that all these actors are giving to their characters, besides Archie, we stated, goes with that. And a little detail I think is nice is that Kevin isn't at the after party, Cheryl's, so it's like where him and Moose are. Actually, Moose isn't there either, so it's good to just kind of like they went off and did their own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, just Kevin being like, oh, what does he say? Moose is like anything but kissing. He goes, oh, I love a good fashioned closet type or something.
Good. I love a good closet case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means that Kevin's done this before, and he's very promiscuous about the whole thing. Also very open about it too.
Mm-hmm.
Which gotta love the man of confidence at least.
That's true.
Yeah. Throughout this pilot, I think he's been pretty open that he's gay.
He's very blunt about a lot of things. So.
Oh yeah, significantly so. But like I said, it's good setup for his character, what to expect the rest of the season.
Yeah. Kind of with that, it's night, so how much that darkness really helps. But I think it's just silly that he trips, but he doesn't trip over Jason.
But the trip is what allows him to spot Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
Jason's
that is
body's
true.
too far in the river for it to be the position where he tripped.
Yeah, doesn't he like? Is like trip on a rock, or is he like walking backwards or something while looking at Moose?
Kind of like half turns to talk to Moose, I think, and
I
trips.
thought he was like trying to pull a shirt over him because they're gonna go skinny dipping or something like that, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
But we don't get to
And
see
then
like anything below their waist,
Yeah.
so we don't know exactly what he tripped on, other than the position he's looking at the body, that it's not the body.
yeah,
yes, which I think they did a really good job of specifying that he didn't trip on the body.
yeah. Well, Biomon, did you want to assign numbers to your subjective and objective, or not at all?
Um,
It's totally up to you if you
let's
want
see.
to.
Let's see. Subjectively, I'm gonna give this a solid 5. The pilot, I spent a lot of time cringing or being bored. I'll admit. It was certainly more enjoyable the second time through. Uh, if only because of the nostalgia factor and knowing what you know as the show goes on.
Yeah. Plus, we made a lot of memories. I get
Objectively,
that.
yeah. Objectively, I'm probably going to give this one. I mean, I think I'm going to also give it a solid 5. Nothing. It's nothing to write home about, but it's also it's not something I'm going to deride. I'm going to give it a perfect middle of the road average across both. It's a pilot. It does its job. Makes you want. Do you want to check out the second episode? Yes or no? No. Okay. Yes. There you go.
All right. Fair enough. I guess we will continue, and you can dip out, sir, when you have to.
Yes. Well, in that case, I will bid you both a good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Oh, a Truman Show reference. Oh, yeah, it was great having you on the pod,
Yeah,
Biomon. Hopefully, we can have you guest again in the future.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I had a great time. Thank you, Ryder. Thank you, Sprinks. I hope to come again another day.
And hopefully, we'll not
Y'all
be
have.
Riverdale next time.
Never know.
Hey, you never know. If you wish to make me the Riverdale guy, well, goddamn, I gotta be more prepared then.
All right. See you, brother.
Have a
See you,
good one.
Biomon.
Bye bye.
And then there were 2.
Yes, and just let's see.
I
Jumping
think-
around trying to figure out how much I got left.
Yeah. I want to talk about Fred Andrews' best fucking scene of the episode, and also best scene of the episode in general. His talk with Archie.
Yeah.
This
Yeah, just clear out coming out who you lying to.
Yeah, so good. Honestly, this is there's a shortage of like I mean this half jokingly but half understandingly. There's a shortage of good parents in media, you know. So I think Fred Andrews fills that good dad niche very, very well, and this scene is not only very pointed in teaching both the character Archie a lesson, and it's also spouting just some good life wisdom and how to treat things. Just, I wrote the quote down as be confident enough in your, whatever you decide, be confident enough in it that you don't have to lie.
I wrote that down as well, yeah.
It's one of those very, very good and impactful scenes because it's just a dad trying to level with his son and make sure his son is always honest with him to the best of their abilities. Because communicating is always difficult in the human race. Funny enough, it's easy on paper, difficult to do in practice, and long-lasting friendships to long-lasting relationships with parents are always ever-changing, turbulent rivers, especially for teenagers like Archie. So I think this scene does a good job of playing up both the fact that Archie's a teenager and showing off Fred Andrews being a good dad and being more amenable to change and keeping that line of communication open because they both deserve that. You know what I'm saying? Fred Andrews doesn't deserve to be lied to, but Archie also deserves to follow his own path. So it strikes that good balance of good character work and parenting and this is by far away my pick for best scene in the episode.
Okay, yeah, I think it's one little throwaway line, kind of. But when earlier Fred and Hermione are talking in the office, and Hermione's looking for a job, and she asks how Fred's wife is, and he says, "Oh, she's in Chicago." At this point, you don't know fully what that means, other than she's not in town.
Yeah.
The knowledge.
No, they say that they're separated in that scene.
Okay, they do say that.
Yes.
That they're okay. Okay, then I think that helps Fred's talk with Archie, trying to be parental, but also not too pushy, because he doesn't have another parental figure to lean on. His mom's not present.
Yeah.
And I love that Fred's not trying to alienate Archie into what Fred wants, but just trying to understand what his son's mind is right now.
Yeah. It's a lot of him just like, why aren't you talking to me about this? It's a lot of it's come from that angle. It's just like, yeah, I would, that's what the ending rant is about. Like, I would never force you to do anything, so why are you lying to me?
Yeah.
Because it's also from the perspective, because he was also, as he says, he's operating under the assumption that Archie wanted to work with him, because that was the case several months ago, as he points out, which is why he not necessarily comes out strong, he comes out firm. You know what I'm saying? It's just, he doesn't want to alienate Archie, but he also is trying to teach his son to be honest, which is very difficult lessons to teach children. So this show kind of nails that scene.
It's almost to the point I would classify it as it's beautifully done.
Oh yeah, if this scene were isolated, this in of itself is almost 10 out of 10. It's a perfect scene.
It's almost beautiful. The only thing I have it down a little is because of Archie.
Funny enough,
I see his troubledness some, but
yeah. Again, it's that also Archie's acting is a little off, but it's otherwise. I think the dialogue is perfect.
I don't think Fred's one of the overacted, enthusiastic characters either.
Yes.
Whereas down to earth.
Whereas I think everyone else is overacting, I think it makes Archie look normal, and it makes Fred Andrews look down to earth. If I'm going to continue with that kind of line of thought.
To help isolate the scene in the pilot, kind of thing.
Funny enough, though, my one issue I have in the scene is nothing to do with the writing itself, but also like it's purely visual. Like you want Archie to act a little bit more, right? Like you want to get some more out of him for the scene.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my thing is
at least
also
just more facial expression.
Yeah. Funny enough, my thing is also purely visual. There is a tall building in the background which would not exist in Riverdale as we know it.
On like their neighborhood street?
Yes. You can see it. Whenever we have the medium shots of them with the looking at Fred talking to Archie.
Oh, it's behind Fred?
Yeah. You can sort of see a tall building back there. The fog that's around them, like the gray scaling, does a decent job of trying to hide it, but it's still there.
Okay. I wouldn't find that egregious. Their neighborhood's that close, but
this is Riverdale, though.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be like the middle of nowhere. That's kind of like the thing is that they characterize the town so specifically. It's a bit of a world building issue that it's there. It's not an egregious issue. It's just a nitpick in the world building.
I mean, I think the only tall building we know of is Veronica's house or apartment, whatever she's in.
Yeah, and it doesn't look anything like that. It looks like one of the, one of those like big tall.
It looks like just a business building.
Yeah, it looks like a big glass office building. Yeah, which doesn't really fit the town.
Yeah, I see it. Huh.
It's not like I said, it's not an egregious issue. It's just a world building nitpicky issue because it's a small town.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, sorry. I just wanted to get that scene up. Go on.
I like after pretty much towards the end of their conversation, the theme song kicks in, but it's more of a somber version.
Yeah, showing that the theme song has its variations.
Yeah, that the composer did. Yeah, variations to the music.
Speaking of, who did the composer for this, Springs?
Great question. Blake Neely,
Huh,
who I
where have you
brought
heard
up
that
in the
before?
Flash. I'm like, I knew I recognized that name from something.
Yeah, he does. He does a lot of the CW shows, and it's not surprising that he did Riverdale too. I think I said the exact
And
same thing in the Flash. Funny enough.
I think they're all pretty good. The
Uh,
Flash theme is really good. The Riverdale theme, I think, is really good.
yeah, I think the only soundtrack from Blake Nellis that I've actively disliked is Batwoman's.
Oh, I am not familiar with it. I have not seen it.
Um, comparing it to the rest of his work, I'll give you a brief summary without you having heard it. My take on it is that it just comes across as absurdly lazy and repetitive.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because
Uh,
he seems to do really good work with simplicity, like
yeah.
reuse of notes, which work real well.
Yeah, which is
But
why in this instance it just doesn't work with the sounds that they've chosen to use. Um,
that's unfortunate.
yeah, I'm trying to figure out
But
how
again,
best.
haven't gone around to it to
Yeah.
hear my own.
I'm
hear it
trying to
myself.
figure out how best to describe it. It's like crossing Riverdale's theme with Hans Zimmer's Dark Knight Rises chants, only in song form. So there's no chants.
Huh.
Yeah, it's
Well, you gave me something to look after.
yeah.
Maybe I'll bring it up in the recap. But huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. That's the only one I'm not a big fan of because I actually think his Riverdale music is also quite good.
Do you find it a little plot heavy or on the nose that Miss Grundy is one of the chaperones at the dance?
Um, no, I think most teachers actually would attend those sorts of things. At least because this is implied to be on campus, so I assume most teachers or staff are going to be there. If it was like a actual prom and it was off site, then we can start talking about. Yeah, I don't think every teacher is going to be there and stuff like that. It makes sense that it's here. It's heavy-handed that she's alone and by herself instead of like talking to other staff members so Archie can approach her.
Yeah, or any other music students that she's had throughout the week.
That's true.
She does have a class, so
It would be nice to see other students going up to her and talking.
yeah. Or her referencing other students for Archie to work with if she wants to avoid him. We see what Archie does, like reaching out to Josie and the Pussycats and then reaching out to Grundy. We don't see Grundy trying to help him in a way to get herself away from him.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see like Archie attending like music sessions with the Pussycats, or like even if the Pussycats don't like him, but she's included because that's who Miss Grundy would be privately tutoring anyway. They're the band. They're already a band. They are already excelling. So why wouldn't Grundy take them under her wing? As far as we know, and do the same with Archie. So Archie can be the odd man out in that scenario. But it would make some sense if there was like other interactions with Miss Grundy from her students.
Yeah. I don't know. That just seemed weird.
We kind of glossed over it because I jumped ahead. I wanted to touch on really quickly Veronica not letting Archie politely turn Betty's invitation to take them down for the dance.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you can definitely see Veronica's mentally kind of like head slapping herself when Betty's like, "Would you like to go with us to the dance?" instead of asking her directly. But Veronica is obviously good on her feet, so she just rolls with it. I quite liked that exchange because it showed, even though Archie already gets a nickname like right out the gate. I quite like the exchange because it shows Veronica's personality. She's trying to help, overly help, Betty, if that makes sense. Which I think plays into what happens later. She tried to help a little too much.
Yeah. No, I can see that definitely going a little too far.
It's a good way. It's characterized. I like it, and just wanted to
Yeah.
bring it up.
I also like how Veronica's very like hopeful in the situation. I know she's a little far, like a little much, but how she agrees with what Betty's like. I need help, so we'll go together. And it's like cool. And as soon as they get there, Veronica's like, I'm gonna go off and give you two time.
Yeah.
It's a very supportive thing.
Yeah, and then
And
she and one of my favorite shots at the dance is her and Kevin like encouraging her while they dance
dancing
together.
that
That's one of my
I
favorite
smirked.
shots in the show as well.
I something I have a slight nitpick with, which there could just be multiple punch tables, but Veronica says, I'm gonna go get punch. Archie sees Grundy, tells Betty, I'll be right back, and when he goes and gets punch, Veronica's nowhere in sight.
Yeah.
It could be a different punch table, but
Yeah. Obviously, I think it's just Veronica making up an excuse to give them time, which is why I don't necessarily have a big issue with that. But yeah, it's a nitpick if that's a little bit of a nitpick that Archie would have noticed if she's not there.
yeah, especially since she walked in the same direction.
Yeah, I probably thought a little bit too much about Archie's psychology for Riverdale.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. The reason I'm saying that is because I think that Archie's interest in Veronica is partly born out of what his fling was with Miss Grundy. Veronica has got almost an adult's head on her shoulders. Like she's very mature for her age most of the time, and you could definitely get a sense of that from her the entire episodes of her acting almost like an adult, and I think that's kind of partly why Archie starts feeling attracted towards Veronica. Yeah, I got to really think about character psychology because obviously this is my first time watching the pilot.
Yeah, going back in and seeing the connection of laters to now and seeing how they start and establish.
Yeah.
What did I have? Oh, it's just Archie being kind of dumb, but Archie sitting next to Grundy and saying he won't tell anyone anything about what happened on the 4th of July. But by saying that and then giving examples of what happened within earshots of students and faculty around him, I'm like, yes, music's playing, but
the intention is obviously that they can't be heard, and it's shot well enough that there are students they're all far enough away, I think. But I agree, it's really dumb of him, and it is not that I ever thought Archie was a bright character to begin with. It's just
no, but also with what we've seen experience with later on, like how what was it Dilton Doily knows things at points and Jughead interrogate him later on. It's like I think they could do it with anyone can pick up anything.
That's true. I agree.
But isolated in here, yeah, just saying it publicly about something that's supposed to be secretive is not smart.
Yeah. And poor Betty gets shut down as well.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, I'm glad it kind of went that way. Like Archie's just so up in his mind and Betty's not being very firm. I mean, she's very sheepishly asking, but has enough courage and confidence to finally get to that point. But unfortunately, Archie's just not fully giving his full attention to her. Yeah. And then when he finally rounds around to think of it as a mistake, which very teen thing of like, oh man, I really messed up. It's already at that point of
being on the too late almost.
Yeah. Which another nitpick I have is when he gets to Betty's house, Betty's already exiting the door like she was waiting for him.
Yeah, I mean, she could have been. I mean, they're neighbors, so she probably could have sat by her window and just waited.
Yeah, but if she was that hurt over it, that just seems odd.
Yeah.
Like she left the party purposely because of it.
It's a balance of like whether she is hurt. Well, she's hurt over the lockup tourist.
Yeah, kind of a betrayal of Veronica and Archie.
Yeah. And it's also going to be balanced with her curiosity. Because obviously the reason Veronica goes into the closet is so specifically Cheryl doesn't.
Yeah. Which I mean, totally, I think valid. of a defense for Betty that Cheryl wouldn't have her way with Archie
Yeah.
to gloat about later, but then also
Obviously, they went in there
for
obviously
Archie and
with no
Veronica
one.
just do it to begin with,
Yeah.
rather than both of them just saying no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's that peer pressure thing, which is why I think they agreed to it in the first place. I don't think they,
Yeah.
especially since Archie's football friend is there, encouraging that he goes in there. So they're
Yeah,
definitely.
Reggie's hot-headed at that moment, just yelling at
Oh,
Archie.
I think he's drunk because remember they spiked the punch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think they're kind of peer pressured into it, and then Veronica went in just so it was her instead of Cheryl. And I actually do think that scene is okay. Like them eventually getting closer and closer to kiss.
Oh yeah, tensions, hormones, but
yeah, and
they're very kind about it to begin with.
Yeah, like they know it's wrong. They're trying to just pass the time, and it just kind of you see sparks though as they connect more and more as the scene goes along. So even though that they do kiss, I actually think the kiss works because they both establish their attraction to each other earlier in the episode, and it's one of the few things that I think has support for Archie that wasn't like overtly stated as a character trait. His attraction to Veronica is almost immediate from the get-go.
Yeah. It has me curious what Crimson thinks over it.
Oh, I'm sure he's gonna hate it. I think Crimson's least favorite scene is either going to be that or the cheerleading scene. Place your bets now, Springs.
Oh boy. I actually think it might be the backflash of Archie and Miss Grundy.
Oh, you think that'll be his least favorite?
I think so. I think he'll see that as such egregious drama made for a show.
Yeah, it's definitely adding in the melodrama.
Because it doesn't have high school drama to it. It has a little more of a dark, forbidden love sense to it.
And then it cuts into the way to the title. Like as soon as we reach the peak melodrama.
Looking at my notes here, I like the little detail that the bottle Cheryl spins for spin the bottle is cherry flavored.
That's makes sense. Yeah, that tracks.
I think the bottle stopping was a practical effect used.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it was multiple takes.
Yeah, I think so as well. Thinking about more about the scene, I was worried, I guess, that I would hate the Veronica and Archie kiss but they set it up fairly well. There's an attraction there, and while I agree it's absolutely melodrama, it at least makes sense as to who they are as characters. Hence why I said I dug into Archie's psychology a little bit to see if it's something why he would form an interest in Veronica at all. And I think it's because Veronica has a bit more of a mature head on her shoulders. Granted, what Archie has to deal with is his football buddies and Cheryl. So
yeah, I'm looking over my notes of what we haven't tackled yet, and I think the only thing I have is meeting Jug at the diner, which Biomon already touched on a little.
Yeah, we kind of touched that at the beginning. That happens before he gets to Betty's house. So yeah, Jughead.
Yeah.
You want to go first? I got some stuff to say about the scene too.
I think Cole Sprouse was a wonderful, great casting pick.
Sounds like someone who just likes Cole Sprouse. But yeah, no, he does a great job as Jughead.
I'm also going with, in a history I didn't share, is that I am familiar with Archie comics, and I have a couple I've collected. I'm glad that this is a modernized look to him, and he doesn't have like the whole Burger King looking crown and a huge long nose, which they joke later in the show, I know. But for right now, with what he is, I think it's really cool. And I think Cole plays it off very well.
I think so as well. I haven't seen you should show me a comic book picture of him once we're done. There are two things I like about this scene. I have an issue with how Archie just kind of starts spouting life philosophy at Jughead when they have which is established at the end of the scene, they don't have much history together anymore. Like they have a divide in their relationship. So it comes across to me as a little bit odd, because it could have been done in a way where I would find him. This is his way of trying to broach that conversation with Jughead. Like this is just how he's broaching Jughead because he knows that Jughead likes those kinds of conversations. But
Yeah.
I don't really ever see Archie pre-plan conversations. So
No,
it doesn't. It comes out of nowhere for me.
I'm in agreement. It definitely feels more plot focused than an actual like rekindling of friendship.
Yeah.
Which I see is why Jughead's not turning him away or like shutting him down. But it doesn't seem like a natural like, how have you been? How long you been here? What are you writing? It's just like Archie just kind of dumping.
Yeah. Which is out of the blue because they're not friends, as we learned about the end of the season. The interesting thing about the scene, though, funny enough, what I like about the scene is nothing to do with Archie. It's Jughead. I quite like the advice that Jughead gives, and you actually get everything that you need to know about the relationship in that last line of "it would have worked with me" or "would have helped with me," you know.
Yeah.
Which is a very powerful line among a couple that we get in this opening episode. And we learn that it's kind of reinforced that the story being told of Riverdale is from Jughead's point of view because he's the one writing it all down.
Yeah. I had to pause and I'm still not sure if it's the lighting usage or whatnot, but does Jughead have like watery eyes? Like, is he actually getting emotionally hurt by Archie not being more, or like the break of their friendship or how their relationship went? Because before he says that line of like what would have gone far with me, there's an actual like pause for. I mean, Jughead even like breaks eye contact and thinks about it.
I think it's him choosing to be blunt about it. I don't necessarily see watery eyes, but I can definitely see in what I've got up because I have a screenshot up. Is it's him just kind of like, it's not necessarily, yeah, he's not crying. It's just
No, not crying.
yeah, but like his eyes aren't watery to me. It's just
I
trying to
can
figure-
see emotion.
yeah, there's definitely emotion there. You can see the inner. Here we go. What you could tell a good actor is how I tell about good actors. I can look at their eyes and see that inner monologue. I see Jughead's inner monologue.
There you go.
I should have phrased that from the beginning because that's how what I always use.
Yeah. And you know who else I can see that with? Fred Andrews.
That's true, and you actually can see a bit of it in Archie in this scene as well. Though like I said, the absurdity of just the dialogue is what gets me. But by the end, especially, you could definitely see the inner monologue for Archie.
Yeah.
And then, kind of running through my notes.
Looking at my notes, I don't really have much anything else.
Yeah, we get pretty much the wrap up narration for discovering Jason's body, and then
the bookend.
In the bookend,
which is also nice that they kind of touch on that at the very beginning. Of like, something occurred, but it's just something with Jason.
Yeah. We don't know fully, and we get set up for the gunshot wound with Archie and Grundy's history.
Yeah. Which, sorry, we never shared that, but that's their big secret that they're hiding.
Yeah.
That on 4th of July they heard a gunshot.
Yeah, they were out and about at 6:00 in the morning and heard a gunshot, which led to. So they were familiar with some of the events going on.
Yeah. But to reveal such a thing to the police would be sharing a forbidden love. So, yeah. Drama.
For drama, yeah. I'm trying to think.
Do you think it's...
Sorry.
I was going to say, do you think it's a little odd that the finding of Jason's body, all the main crew are present at the river?
Oh, that everybody comes out to the river?
Yeah, like, is it a big town gathering thing to find a body? Because then word would have spread fast if it's the next morning.
I would have had an issue if it wasn't the same in the first episode when they find Cheryl and they're combing the river. Everybody's there still as well.
Okay.
So clearly the town does come out. Um,
Well, true, but the Cheryl thing was like looking for Jason
yeah,
that day or week, coming for the body. This is the body's found that night by Moose and Kevin,
and then by morning
and this
everybody's
is next
there.
morning and everyone's already there. I
Yeah,
mean, I guess it could just be Kevin being a blabbermouth telling everyone.
yeah. I mean, word can spread like that. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's funny because I also had the same thought. I'm like, this is it. I'm tempted to give it a pass because it fits with that small town vibe, but I don't know if I can because it's kind of absurd. So I'm gonna chop it down as a world building issue that they're all just there the next day, because obviously they didn't wait like 2 days to all come out. It's literally that next
Yeah.
morning. It has to be.
My issue with it is I'm fine the kids are there if Kevin said it. I find it weird that Fred is there, Hermione's there, uh, the Coopers, so like the parents are
Yeah, all
present.
of them came out. Yeah.
That I find is weird.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. It's definitely a world building issue. I would chop that up to a world building issue anyway.
It makes it look cool though.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
obviously
who
the
killed him? And you got all the suspects.
yeah, and then we have Jughead going like, oh, by halfway through like
Yeah, Tuesday
second period,
afternoon,
fifth period
first
or
arrest.
whatever, it would be uh we
The first arrest.
the
Yeah.
first arrest. Yeah.
Any Hoosiers? Any other last notes you got?
Surprisingly, I don't think so. I think I'm good. So,
All right, well, going to summaries and ratings. Being that
hey,
there's only two of us, I mean, Biomon already gave. Biomon was 2 5s, was it?
2 5s. Yep.
Okay. Um, I'll let you go first.
All right. Um, I'll do my subjective. I have a lot of nostalgic attachment towards this show now. I would never go out of my way to rewatch it without you guys, pretty much, or continue watching it without you guys, as it were. And like I said at the beginning, the best way to experience this is with a group of friends while intaking substances. My choice was alcohol. I have no idea what it would like to be watching this show high, but I'm sure it would be just as fun. Um, that's writer's segment of advocating for drug use, I guess. Uh, but yeah, that being said, I I like drama shows. I like them. They're in the sense of they could be a lot of fun for me, uh, whether it's cheesy or not. Um, but it's not my thing specifically. So I have caveats in which I would rewatch this. I have a lot of nostalgic attachment to this, and I have a lot of grievances towards the show personally that I don't like. I don't want to experience it again, but I would because it's going in with friends is always fun. Um, I think subjectively, I'm at a 6. I can see myself. I can definitely see myself watching this again. It wouldn't be my first choice, but it's not an absurdity to me to watch it again. So 6 for me. Objectively, oh boy. Let's start with the world building. The world building has a fair few nicks in it, but I like the setting. They managed to capture the setting very well, I think. The nicks would be uncertainty of time frame for uh, I guess just how long it was. If it's supposed to be the first day of school, we have the nitpick of the uniform, and if it's not the first day of school, it was unclear how much time had passed. At least when they joined the cheerleading squad. My bad to kind of paraphrase
I
it
think
out.
it's
So
first week.
yeah, like I said, I think it's within the first week as well, but I don't really have any time frames to go off of, which is a bit of an
I
issue.
mean, it would just be weird if the school dance was on Monday
It would be.
and the first day of school.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the first week. I just wish they were more clear about the transitions of time because it's hard to even infer that without anything to go off of.
Because it does make it look like morning, days, sequence and then one night.
Yeah. We start with an evening sequence like the night before school, then we have our day of school, a bunch of stuff happens, they go out and party, and then we have our ending. It's kind of what it feels like, even though it's probably not meant to be that way. So a lot happens in a day or a week. I think plot-wise, Archie's ties to the plot, I think, would be the weakest points for me. And this is mostly because this is actually more of a broad critique over Archie's character as the whole episode. He's very bland. I don't really get much. I don't know what he thinks because they haven't characterized him enough for me to understand his perspective. It's like he's a generic protagonist and they didn't fill in the... It's like you have an outline of a character but they didn't fill in the blanks. Or if you're an artist, it's like they stenciled out a drawing, but they didn't color the drawing. It's kind of what Archie comes across to me as a character, but his problem is he's like intrinsically tied to the plot of this episode almost, because of his relationship with Betty, and I think that is exaggerated when he interacts with other characters who are extremely well characterized. I find his interactions with Betty are very, very... They highlight that aspect of Archie because Betty has a full range of emotions in her first few scenes that we understand what she's thinking going into the rest of the episode, whereas I don't have that with Archie at any point of the episode, even by the end. The closest I get is when he's confessing that he loves Betty and that he doesn't feel good enough, but I am left scratching my head because at what point did he ever demonstrate that he really, really loved Betty? It's one of those things that I'm getting into character inconsistencies. Wow. All right, I'm just gonna... The plot is you're going from event to event. It's the typical high school drama stuff that they're just kind of getting out of the way. You're getting introduced to characters. You have your typical girl boss kind of showdown. You have your one student who's dealing with too much on their shoulders. You have the outsider kid who's barely in the first episode, but he's there. You have your preppy queen bee in Cheryl, who's, like I said, more archetype than character, but all of this facilitates what is a very, very simple plot of what is essentially the first week of school of introducing us to this world, while also gonna hit us with the drama at the end, which is the hook that, oh right, there was a murder that took place. Now it's been upped from a sudden death to a murder, which is Jason Blossom having been shot, and going from that to characters. I already talked a little bit about Archie. I find it to be particularly bland because it just him being with other characters really, really elevates that to other levels. I think Betty's really well characterized. I think Veronica is extremely well characterized. Kevin, I don't know if he's inconsistent, but he's definitely a different take on the gay archetype, on the gay friend archetype. Biomon pointed out that he has a specific take towards him at the end where he is kind of reduced once more to a kind of a caricature. I don't see that as much, but I can definitely see where he's coming from. With what little screen time we have, Jughead, he's the narrator, implied the story, this is from POV of view. He's kind of aloof. He's an ex-friend of Archie, but he gives Archie advice nonetheless, so they still have a somewhat amenable relationship, so they don't outright hate each other. It just kind of comes across that they sort of grew apart. And we also get a bit of, obviously, the hint that Jughead's a night owl. He likes to stay up at night. I kind of touched on Cheryl Blossom over the course of our recording, so I'm not going to go too much into her other than I like some of her dialogue. She does a lot of doublespeak, which entertains me as a writer. That being said, I don't think she moves beyond her archetypeness in this episode. I know she is a character, but within the context of this individual episode, I don't think she gets enough beyond that for her to feel like a actual person, because there are ways she says things that just come across as inhuman. And is the best way to describe it. Uh, Archie's dad, Fred, is really, really cool. Really like his character. He's patient, comforting. He's a chill dude. He's polite, even when with Hermione, someone who has to turn down. Um, with what little contextualization we have for Alice, we don't get a lot of her in this episode, but we get enough to know that she's controlling, manipulative, and quite possibly keeping Betty on Adderall, which is an interesting thing to think about that I found this episode. I kind of just skipped over Veronica. Veronica is very intelligent, has a good head on her shoulders, knows how to climb the social ladder, knows how to deal with Cheryl in a way. And it does bite her a little bit when it comes to Cheryl, because Cheryl obviously sends them into the closet together. But obviously, Veronica did that to avert what she thought was in a worse situation. But obviously, she still got outplayed by Cheryl because she's still in the closet with him. Some of her reactions are funny when Betty fails to ask Archie out again and says that they should go together as a group. You can kind of hear the mental head slap that she does. But she's a good wingman for Betty for most of the episode. And I'll wrap this up again with what I started on Archie. Is Archie's very, very bland, because we don't really know how to take his confession scene with Betty at the end, because he's admitting that he loves her, but we don't see anything that really supports it, and we also don't see anything as to why he feels inadequate. So it would be one thing if we had something supporting his feelings of inadequacy, or something supporting his feelings of love for Betty. And those are in conflict, I think. So we get to the point of some character inconsistency with that. So the plot is very standard for a CW show. I think the world building has some nicks in it, but I think the characters, again, kind of hold that up, since that's worth half my scale, essentially. So this is going to get a solid 6.5 for me, objectively. I have issues with their character works. I have a lot of issues with the dialogue for the characters. That being said, I do think most of the characters are well characterized despite my dialogue issues. I think the plot is simple enough that it's easy to follow. And like I said, I got some world building, so 6.5 feels fair to me. That's right in my average range. It's not my highest average, but it's there.
Okay. I will start with my objective, and for my scores, I wrote them both down, and then I went back and checked my score for Mystery Incorporated, and I changed my objective for Riverdale. Just putting that out there.
Just out of curiosity, what was your objective on?
Mystery Incorporated was 2 8s.
Okay.
So objective for Riverdale, I think the cinematography is very well done. A lot of beautiful lined up shots, which go in hand with the lighting. There's some really nice lighting shots. One that comes to mind is Archie right outside Betty's house with the street post down on him, and he's all silhouetted, but the light just hits him so you can see who it is, and it highlights his hair, which is like one of his defining characteristics, and I think that's just so nicely looking. The angles of like the zoom-ins at the beginning of Cheryl on the boat, looking for Jason's body, the two hand-in-hand I talked about of Miss Grundy and Archie, just a lot of shots I really liked. There was middle lining and what's it called? One on left, one on right kind of thing. Two framing. That's a two framing. There was a three framing with one being on a third. Over the shoulder angles. There was nothing really experimental usage, I think. Not a lot of like Dutch angles or panning. One shot I really did like, or use of camera, was when Betty said no to her mom about taking off the cheerleading uniform, and the camera went into a shaky handheld. I think that was really cool to show the unsteadiness between the relationship that just occurred.
Unhinged Alice, as always.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome and very smartly done. The camera work, I praise it. It's very nice. The music usage is my slight problem maybe is I don't think there was enough of times where music shouldn't have been present. There are times I think when Veronica's like asking who's Jason, it's silent and there's no music, but it seems every other part that I can think of, there's some kind of music in the background, lyrical or not. Oh, I guess when Archie's talking to Josie, there is no music playing during that. But there just seems to be music at all points, which isn't a problem because I think it fits or helps control the tone of scenes. And none of them really stood out as like terrible usage to me, but a couple are like really good, like the really more somber usage of the theme after Fred and Archie have their talk. I really like that one, or just the theme building when it's showing the flashback of Grundy and Archie to the title sequence. I think that was really good with the tension. So the music I thought was good. The acting I think is good and up from everybody, with Archie just being at the bottom, but I think his acting's still good. I think his facial expressions is the only thing I would have asked more from of KJ Apa, the actor, because of like his decision making of football, music, and working for his dad, and then balancing friends and schoolwork and everything else. And him like, I didn't need him like sweating bullets or anything of like being really stressed out and anxiety and all that, but just seeing
Some more inner monologue would have been nice.
yeah, even more of just like a confidence in him of like, oh, I can do this, and like I'll get all this done, or like I know what I'm doing, kind of thing. Like that situation, I wish more of. But Fred, God, I love Fred Andrews. He's great. Jughead, I think, is really good. Cheryl being the queen bee, I think, instance of Inhuman because we said everyone's like heightened in acting and overacting. I think that's fine. I just wish it was more layered. Of like, imagine a lasagna if it was all her character was a lasagna, rather than how I see in scenes of like one layer of pasta laid out. So kind of like Mood Sweeney. I wish it wasn't like that because it seems very polarizing of her character. Veronica, I think, is great. Betty, I think, is great. Kevin, I think, is great. And then I guess anyone else is fine and good. The writing is a CW show, so it could be a lot worse. I've seen worse, and there's instances of the show where it's a lot worse. But I think it's nicely packed. It's not as quick, and it has, I think, twice as much team as Brooklyn Nine-Nine did, where Brooklyn Nine-Nine, we said, didn't waste any second introducing characters and using everything they had in 22 minutes. This was 46 minutes, and I think they still had enough to introduce and get character relationships going along with a little more time of breathing between events going on. A lot of stuff I really liked, and my original score for Objective was an 8, but I think the love of the world and characters and what's it called? Original substance, source material. That's it. Source material for Mystery Incorporated is stronger than Riverdale. So I give Riverdale an objective 7.5. My subjective is I had a blast watching this, and I know why. I've seen this pilot probably 4 times now, and it just like gets me hooked into the show of this mystery and zaniness and these characters and this darker tone to Archie comics that I know of, where it was all just like silly and goofy. And it's like, oh, what's the problem? I don't have a date to a dance, and that's the whole comic line. Or Jughead's like, I don't have money for a hamburger, but now it's like, oh,
I think you pitched
a kid got shot.
Yeah, if I might say something, I think you pitched this to me as it's the Archie comics with a dark, sexy twist.
Yeah, dark, sexy, gritty, Twin Peak-esque. Sinister wouldn't like me using that for this, but
no, he wouldn't.
That kind of feel. And I just had a blast watching it again. I'm sorry to say, I've seen this 400% more than Mystery Incorporated. I think this is an 8.5 subjectively. It's fun. It's such a fun thing to watch. It has me smiling, thinking about, should I watch more? Should I pitch we watch more? See how it goes. Yeah, I just had a great time. It's fun.
You totally could. We still do our movie nights, so.
Yeah. And, people were like, 8.5, that's pretty high. It's not a 10.
Yeah.
It's not even a 9. But I enjoyed watching this more than Mystery Incorporated.
All right.
And again, this is my 4th watch of the pilot, so it's not a score. I don't even know what my first time I saw the pilot, maybe a 7.
Yeah.
It's probably lower, but just rewatching and knowing more and all, so has raised it.
Yeah, I mean, that could do that for you for sure. Well, I guess with that, Springs, shall I read us out?
I think so.
All right, audience, thank you for listening, whether it be Spotify, Anchor, Amazon, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Samsung, and iHeartRadio. And if you happen to be on our visual side of things, be it YouTube and Rumble, watching our PNG tubers, or anywhere else, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. As always, I have been a Geeky Writer.
And I'm Springs.
And we had a Biomon. And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Toodaloo.